Welcome to HOJO Radio. Our next broadcast was the brainchild of Jack Webb and may very well be the most well-remembered and best radio police drama series of all time. It ran from September in 1949 through February 1957 in 30-minute shows broadcast on NBC, and it brought to radio true police stories in a low-key, documentary style. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you Dragnet on HOJO Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the documented story you will hear during the next 30 minutes is not a subject commonly discussed. It is a criminal problem that is not yet nationwide, but it's a problem which is growing rapidly. We present it now so that you may recognize it for what it is if and when it invades your city. The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to FUNKO detail. You begin to receive reports of a vicious new racket growing in your city, the television repair racket. The repairmen lie, overcharge, bill you for work not done, for parts not needed, for parts they don't install. Your job? Stop them.
How does Fatima compare with other king-size cigarettes?
Fatimas are the same length and circumference, 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around. And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance as any other king-size cigarette.
Tell me then, how is Fatima different from other king-size cigarettes?
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Remember, Fatima has all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
So insist on the best. Smoke king-size Fatima. Best of all king-size cigarettes. Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, January 19th. It was overcast in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of FUNKO detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain McCauley. My name's Friday. It was 9:15 a.m. when we got to the third floor of the Los Angeles Daily News, the assistant city editor's office.
Hi, Friday. Come on in. Sit down.
Morning, Jack. I'd like you to meet my partner, Ben Romero. Ben, this is Jack Kinnett, staff writer for the Daily News.
All right, Kinnett. Glad to know you, Ben. Sit down, fellas.
Thanks. We just left the skipper over at the city hall.
Did the captain brief you on this thing?
Yeah, he gave us a partial fill-in. We've been working on it from our end about 2 weeks now.
Oh, Paul Price. He's our radio TV editor. Paul and I had a long session with Captain McCauley yesterday, and I guess now we're all ready to move on this thing, huh?
We'll do everything we can. Would you like to fill Ben in on what you told me yesterday on the phone?
Yeah. Well, Price was the one who began getting the first complaints here at the paper. A tremendous number of his readers wrote in complaints about being victimized by crooked television repairmen.
About being charged too much for repair?
Partly, yeah. Some of the people even sent in receipts with their letters. Said they felt the guys who fixed their sets were dreaming up unnecessary repairs, charging them for work not done. Some of them said they knew they were billed for parts not even replaced or installed in their sets.
Ben, Jack told me yesterday about a letter he got from some man who said he felt he'd been overcharged and he just started to bellyache about it.
Yeah, a fellow by the name of Vincent. Said he just put up an old-fashioned squawk about it, and the repairman brought the price down at least 1/3.
That doesn't sound very good, does it?
We kind of figured operators like that must have too many repair sets on hand that their customers can't afford to bail out. That's why they cut.
Sounds like a clear case of a two-bit gyp, doesn't it?
Well, something's got to be done about it.
We're ready to give it big play in our paper, expose the fraud for what it really is. Captain McCauley says Chief Parker's okayed our plan, and we can count on full police cooperation.
That's the way we got it, Jack. We were told to work with you people till we broke this thing.
Fine. We dug up a little ammunition to start with, I think. Went around and interviewed about 15 different television repairmen in various neighborhoods, and about 3 out of 5 gave me the same pitch.
Well, do they know you were with the newspaper?
No, I told them I was a factory representative for a new kind of rosin core solder company. And I was taking orders.
Yeah.
Naturally, I dropped in the different stores, shot the breeze with them, and they didn't seem to get wise. A couple of them even placed orders for the solder.
Well, what'd you find out?
Well, I just wanted to try and get the general attitude of some of these gyp artists, and I really got an earful. One of the last places I hit was a tiny little hole in the wall out near Canoga Park. As I say, about 2 out of 5 are honest, hard-working repairmen, and this fellow was one of them.
Well, what are you getting at, Jack?
For a while, this fellow worked for a guy that employed about 5 men in his shop.
Yeah.
Finally quit him because he didn't like the way this big operator did business. Fellow's in the next office. I want you to hear it from him just as I got it. Excuse me.
Yeah, okay.
Hank, will you come in, please?
Sure, Mr. Knapp.
This is Hank Coulter, Sergeant Friday, Sergeant Ben Romero, Police Department.
How are you?
Hank, I wonder if you'd tell these officers a little of what you told me about Kilgore TV specialists.
All right.
Now, suppose I'm a customer and I come into Kilgore's. I don't like the size of my repair bill. What were you instructed to say?
Well, we generally tried to talk him out of any complaint.
Suppose I complained about all the multiple charges. I wanted an explanation of the work you did. What then?
We just tell you that it wouldn't do any good to explain. You wouldn't understand all the technical stuff anyway.
Tell us Kilgore's attitude with the customer.
You mean about the loose wire stuff?
Yeah, please.
Well, Kilgore used to tell us that if we only charged 50 cents for fixing a loose wire, the customer wouldn't believe we really fixed his set, so we used to charge quite a lot more.
Well, how much more, for example?
For a nickel's worth of wire, we'd usually charge $4.75.
Pretty fair profit.
Yeah, it's a real rob.
What else can you tell us, eh?
Well, we'd never let a customer watch any of the TV repair job. For example, if a customer calls and says he thinks the tube's blown out and it'll only be a simple replacement job in his home, and we'd tell him the parts are getting hard to get, and we'd have to take his set into the shop and charge him a higher rate because we had to pay black market prices for the tube.
Was there any truth in that? I mean, about the tubes being hard to get?
Not much. Some of them are getting a little hard to get, but we never paid any black market prices at Kilgore's. We just slugged the customer, that's all.
Tell them about how you used to swap parts on a new set, Hank.
Well, we'd lots of times pirate a new tube for one not so good. One not so good we put in a set with a bad tube.
Yeah.
Then the bad tube we'd exchange at the factory under a 1-year guarantee.
Yeah, they don't miss an angle, do they?
Well, that's it. You've heard it from a man who couldn't stomach such practice and quit, went into business. A little bit of a shop. Isn't doing too well, are you, Hank?
No, but I think I can build up the business. I don't make quite as much profit as Kilgore's, but I don't chisel my customers either.
Thanks a lot, Hank. I wonder if you'd wait in the next office for me?
Sure. Hope I've helped a little bit to crack down on some of these guys.
Well, we think you have, Hank. Thanks a lot.
Nice to meet you.
Right, see you later.
See you later.
Seems like a nice fellow.
Hey, he is. I've checked on him, and I've talked with some of his customers since I met him. He's honest.
It's a pretty vicious racket, isn't it?
Yeah. It ought to be stopped now. Television's a wonderful medium of entertainment. A lot of the country doesn't have it yet, but when the cable goes through and it finally opens up, the people should know about the swindlers and crooks who'll try to gyp them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same way when radio first came in. Always seems like when anything new comes along, anything a little complicated, maybe a little too involved for the average guy, a few smart punks victimize him. Rob the consumer blind.
Well, naturally, we got to have some positive evidence before we can file a complaint with the city attorney on this thing.
Yeah, you fellas, any ideas where to start?
Well, the best way to crack down on these crooked operators is to catch them red-handed with evidence that'll hold up in court.
Yeah.
We think maybe we've got an idea.
Well, we were talking to Dick Saunders over in our sound lab, and he says that he can bungle a new TV set, and we can mark it and photograph it before it goes out to be repaired.
And when it's returned or after it's fixed, we'll have what we need to go to court on, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
We can operate right out of one of our own homes.
And all we have to do is hope the repairman overcharges us or tries to gyp us.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's hope it works.
Well, from what we've heard, it's got to. 10 a.m. The staff writer, Jack Kinnett, Ben, and I drove back downtown. On the way, it was decided that we'd use Kinnett's home as the place from which to operate. It was centrally located and in an average neighborhood. When we got back to our office, we contacted one of the local television dealers and asked for the loan of one of their sets. They recommended K. Halbert because the chassis is easily accessible and any trouble could be located quickly because parts are visible. A 16-inch K. Halbert console model was sent to our sound lab. 10:18 a.m., we met with Dick Saunders, our police lab technician.
Here's the set. 16-inch console model, serial number C2817901.
What have you done to it, Dick?
Well, first off, I tested the set and it performed perfectly. It's a good set. Brings in a fine picture, see?
20.
Test pattern's fine, huh?
Yeah, it's good.
Tested all the tubes, all okay.
How are you marking the set?
Here, I'll show you. Get a tube out of here. Now, if you look closely here at the base of the socket, see it?
What's that?
This is it, isn't it, Dick? A little tiny dot of green paint?
Yeah, that's right, Ben. I'm marking every part of the set with this tiny green dot.
Looks good. If I didn't spot it, I doubt anyone else would, especially if they didn't know about it.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
In addition to this type marking, we've taken all serial numbers off the tubes and various parts. Anything that carried any form of coding, we took down.
Mm-hmm.
All major components have been marked. Transformers, coils, condensers, tuning units, so on.
Did you get any pictures of it?
Yeah, we did. Took photographs of the set in and out of the cabinet. Took them from 4 different angles just to be sure we were well covered.
Well, how did you bungle it?
Well, here's what I did. To put the set out of commission, I burned out the filament of the 5U4G low-voltage rectifier tube.
What's the cost of that particular tube, Saunders?
Well, this tube ordinarily retails for $1.65.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that do to the set? I mean, burning out the tube.
By burning out that filament, we cause the sound and picture circuits to be completely inoperative.
It won't work at all until that particular tube is replaced by a good one, isn't it?
That's right, Joe.
Well, how big a job would it be to trace the trouble?
Well, it could easily be detected by casual observation or by noting that the tube normally very hot is cold.
How much time would you say it'd require to make a repair like this?
Oh, I'd estimate not over a half hour would be required to place this set in operating order.
Half hour, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dick. You going to take care of getting the set out to Canette's home right away?
Yeah, we have his address right here. We'll get it right out.
All right, fine.
If you can, try to get whoever repairs this set to give you an itemized bill of all work done and parts installed.
Right.
In case you call more than one outfit today, here's an extra bad 5U4G tube.
Thank you, Dick.
Anything you'd like to know?
No, I think that about covers it for me. Jack?
One more thing. I was just wondering, if somebody spots the trouble right away and replaces the tube, what do you think they ought to charge, Dick? Labor and all.
I checked through RTA on that this morning. They said to make a house call and replace the defective tube should not exceed $4.50.
Okay, thanks.
That does it for now, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, you're all set then. Think you'll get what you're after?
Well, we should. The odds are all on our side. 10:30 a.m., Monday, January 19th. We left the sound lab on West 1st Street and walked back to Bunko Division. We met with Captain McCauley and filled him in. We gave him the newspaper man, Jack Canette's address, and told him he could reach us there. The console model television set was delivered to Canette's home and properly installed. When we arrived at his home, we started going through the yellow classified section of the phone directory. We made a list of several TV service stores just picked at random. We chose a wide variety. We picked stores that were listed with large boxed-in ads, stores that carried no ads, just a listing. Ben called 2 places and staggered the calls so that the repairman would arrive about 1 hour apart. It was 11:30 a.m. when the first man made his service call, Bart's TV experts on Hollywood Boulevard. It took him 45 minutes. It was 12:15 when he left Jack Canette's home.
Must have been one of the 2 out of 5, huh?
Yeah, he seems okay.
I wonder if I could see that bill, huh? Please?
Oh, here you go, Joe.
Thanks. Yeah, looks okay. Replace 5U4G tube, $1.65. Service charge, $2.50. Total charges, $4.15.
That kind of bears out Canette's thinking, doesn't it? Remember when we asked him how many men worked in his shop and he said he's alone?
Yeah.
I think you'll find that's a pretty good barometer. All the servicemen working alone aren't like this guy, but the bigger percentage of the honest ones are.
When's the next one due to arrive, Ben?
Any minute now. Called a place by the name of Cheney's Video Repairs. They're over on Beverly Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
Had a big ad. Looks like a pretty big outfit.
Oh, here's that other defective tube that Dick gave us.
Yeah, better get it in the set.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Here we are. 5U4G.
Okay, here you go.
Thanks, Joe. Here's a new one the guy put in.
I got it.
Okay. Get this back on again.
Okay?
Yeah, fine. Better turn it on to make sure it's not working.
I got it.
How about the tube, Ben? Can you see? Is it lighting up?
No, not yet. I'll push the set back against the wall.
We better leave it on for a while, Jack, just to make sure, huh?
Yeah.
There we are. I gave you the other tube?
Yeah, I got it right here in my pocket.
Right.
I'd like to try something, if you fellas think it'll be okay.
What's that, Jack?
I got a good little camera, like a 3F, you know, candid.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe if I turn all the 3-way lamps up to full, here's a AAA fast film that's in the camera now, maybe we can grab some shots of the guy while he works. What do you think?
Well, if you're careful, don't let him get wise. Maybe you ought to shoot some of all of us just so he doesn't think anything about it. Huh?
Yeah, that's what I figured out. Just sit down on that chair over there by the set, make him think I'm just testing or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can bring it off without arousing any suspicion.
Okay.
If I get anything, the guy's out of line, we'll run the shots in the Daily News.
What do you figure on doing, Jack? You going to run a series on the TV repair racket?
Yeah, that's the plan. Lee Payne, he's our executive editor. He thinks it's high time somebody exposed the swindle in the paper.
Mm-hmm. That'll be the next service, man. I'll let him in.
Right. Better turn off the set, huh?
Yeah.
Television repair?
That's right.
I'm from Cheney's on Beverly Boulevard.
Oh, yeah. Come on in.
Thanks. Oh, what seems to be the trouble?
We don't know. Set's right over here.
Oh, thanks. Kay Halbert, huh? 16-inch, nice set. Oh, what seems to be wrong?
Darn if I know, son. Nothing seems to work.
Well, how do you mean?
No picture at all.
How about the sound?
Nothing.
Uh-huh. Be all right to pull the set away from the wall?
Sure, go right ahead. Can I give you a hand?
Oh, no, it's all right. I can handle it. Well, I'll make some tools out. How long you had this set?
Oh, about 2-3 months.
Mm-hmm. Dark in here. I wonder if we could have a little more light?
Sure, let me get these lamps up for you.
Well, thanks.
How's that?
Oh, fine, thanks. Say, that's a nice little camera you got there. What kind is it?
A Leica 3F 1.5 lens.
Uh-huh.
Been experimenting with some new indoor film. You mind being a guinea pig?
No, it's all right with me. Shame to waste good film on me, though.
Think you're going to get anything in this light, Jack?
Maybe. Worth a try, anyway.
I don't know about this set.
What do you mean?
Well, it looks bad. Hard to tell without getting it down to the shop. Looks to me like your blocking transformer's gone.
And what's that mean?
Well, I'll have to take the set in.
Can't fix it here, huh?
No, I'm afraid not. You see, parts are getting a little hard to get these days. The set manufacturers are having a tough time getting quality parts, and sometimes we have to spend several hours just tracing the trouble.
Well, I guess that knocks out the ball game tonight, huh, fellas?
Sorry. Take a couple of days at least. Want to really check it over.
Sure it's not a tube. We kind of thought just a tube blew out.
No, that's what most people think every time their set goes out. It's definitely not a tube. Oh, there might be some bad tubes, but your trouble's a great deal more than that, I think.
Have you got any idea what it's going to run us?
Well, it's hard to say right offhand.
$4 or $5?
No, it's going to run more than that. I'll take the set in with me now, and I'll get it back to you as soon as possible.
You going to take the whole set?
No, I'll just pull the chassis out of the cabinet, leave the cabinet here. Oh, say, by the way,
Yeah?
if everything turns out, I'd sure like to see those pictures.
Yeah, if everything turns out, you will.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic cases from official police files. Now, let's look at our Fatima files.
Listed under B, Bella. James Warner Bella, distinguished author. He says,
A man who smokes as much as I do wants a cigarette that's extra mild. And I like Fatima's different flavor and aroma.
Listed under S, Scanlon. Louise Scanlon, Stork Club cigarette girl. She says,
More and more of my Stork Club customers are smoking king-size Fatimas. They're elegant, distinctive, and really extra mild.
Friends, our files show Fatima sales are going up. Up every day.
the reason for Fatima's ever-increasing popularity can be summed up in 2 words: Fatima quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
If you smoke a king-size cigarette, remember this:
Fatima has all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. In Fatima, the difference is quality.
So insist on the best. Insist on king-size Fatima.
Next time, buy Fatima in the distinctive gold and yellow package. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Thursday, January 22nd, 9:30 a.m. The TV set was returned to reporter Jack Cannett's home after having been repaired by a servicing company called Cheney's Video Repairs. We found that the man who had come to Cannett's home to make the service call was Robert V. Cheney, the owner of the service outfit. Well, as soon as the set was returned, we called the sound lab and had it picked up and taken downtown. Sergeant Marshall Zeno, who was working with us out of bunco detail, called and said that Dick Saunders had finished his investigation and wanted to see us right away. 10:30 a.m., we went down to West 1st Street, the police sound lab. Saunders went over his findings with us.
Here are the photographs before and after.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go over these, let me show you what we found out about your repair job.
Okay.
Over here. Here's that receipt Cheney gave you when he returned the set.
Yeah.
Here's what the repair bill states. Replaced vertical blocking transformer, replaced 5U4G tube, 6AU6 tube, and 12AU7 tube.
And the charge was $32.50.
Plus 98 cents tax, or a total of $33.48.
Well, how does that break down, Dick?
It appears that the 98 cents tax was for $28 worth of material used in the repair.
Mm-hmm.
Did they really put in all that stuff?
You got yourself a prize package in that outfit. All they did was to replace the 5U4G tube.
That's all they did, huh?
Yeah. Here's the capper. The 5U4G is a war surplus tube, but it works okay.
What else did you find?
According to the photographs and coding system, no vertical blocking transformer, 6AU6 tube, or 12AU7 tube were replaced. Let's get back to the photos here. Here, you can take these along for your package.
Thanks, Dick.
You can see in the set here.
Yeah?
Let me show you. You see, this tube is the only part mentioned in the receipt or otherwise that doesn't carry our green paint coating system.
Yeah.
Let me turn the set around here.
All right.
Joe, try the channel selector here.
What, this?
Yeah, that's the tuning knob to bring in the stations. Channel selector, they call it. Turn it.
Okay.
Falls off pretty easy, doesn't it?
It sure does. Here, Dick.
Thanks. They left out the spring clip in here. It should have been put back in because that's what holds the knob secure to the shaft.
I've had that happen on radio sets.
Yeah, sometimes they're a little stubborn to put back in, but a good repairman would never leave it out.
Yeah.
Something else here. Turn the set around in the back again.
No, I'll get it, Dick.
Oh, thanks, Ben. You see here? See how loose the chassis is in the cabinet now?
Yeah, it sure is.
Wasn't that way when we got it from the K. Halbert dealer, any more than the channel selector was faulty.
It was in perfect shape when we got it.
Look at the size of that chassis. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it is.
Originally, there were 4 screws used to hold the chassis in the wood cabinet. Cheney's repair outfit only put 1 back in. 1 screw to hold that heavy chassis.
It's a pretty sloppy job, all right.
You know what they'd probably tell you if you asked them about this?
That only requires 1 screw.
Yeah, that's it. The bad repairman can always improve on factory standards, usually for his own convenience. Certainly doesn't improve the product.
Well, looks like we got what we were after.
Think we got enough, Joe?
I do. Let's see what the city attorney thinks. We collected all the evidence in the case against Cheney's video repairs. We met with Captain McCauley and took it up to the 2nd floor of the city hall. We met with Assistant City Attorney Boyd Taylor and showed him our findings. He issued a warrant for the arrest of Robert W. Cheney, charging him with violation of Section 484 PC, 1 count. 11:30 a.m., Thursday, January 22nd. Ben and I drove out to make the arrest. Jack Canet went along with us.
This is it. Cheney's video repairs.
Yeah. Come on, Jack.
There's Cheney behind the counter.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Hi.
How's the set working?
All right.
We did a good job on that one. Gave you a better break on the price than I thought we could.
Yeah. Police officers, you're under arrest.
Well, you're kidding. What for?
Petty theft. Come on, let's go.
Petty theft? Well, I don't understand. You're the fellows I fixed that set for up on Crescent Drive, aren't you?
That's right. Your bill was a little high, wasn't it?
Oh, now, wait a minute. If that's all that's bothering you, let's talk it over.
Come on, let's go.
Look, I can fix that up with you guys. Just tell me how much you want to pay and we'll work out something.
That seems to be the way you worked our repair deal right from the start, doesn't it? Only you didn't consult us about it till now.
Well, look, you know how it is. In this business, if you don't charge some customers a little money, they don't think you did anything to their sets.
You ought to try charging them for just the work you do.
Can't we get together on this thing? Let's just forget the whole deal. You don't owe me anything. Now, here. Here, I'll refund all your money. We'll call it square.
Never mind. Just leave the money in the cash register and get your coat.
Can't prove anything anyway.
We think we can. Just step around the counter this way.
Look, mister, you're not a cop, are you?
No, I'm not.
Well, then tell him, isn't that a fair deal? I'll give you back your money.
Afraid it's a little late for that, Cheney.
If all this gets in the papers, I'll be ruined here. Run out of business.
That's the way we got it figured.
How many men you have working here for you?
4. Why?
This, right here. You ever read this?
Well, what is it? Oh, the thing from the RTA.
Here. Read Article 2, would you?
2?
Yeah, that's right.
I will conduct myself and my business in an honest and straightforward manner, meriting and inspiring the confidence of my customers. Yeah, I know about this.
You're a member of the RTA, Radio Technicians Association, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Read Article 4, will you?
I propose to charge a just and fair price for all professional services rendered.
Now read us Article 7.
I will engage only in fair and ethical practices recommended and approved by the Radio Technicians Association as being conducive to public confidence. Yeah, I've read all this before.
It's too bad you didn't remember it.
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 15th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 82, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, this week I'll be seeing you from page 8 of Life magazine, this week's Fatima ad. Right across the top it says, "In Fatima, the difference is quality." Well, in Fatima, the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos give you extra mildness, a different, better flavor and aroma. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette. Prove, as I have, what a difference Fatima quality makes. Next time, buy Fatima in the golden yellow package. Best of all, king-size cigarettes. Ladies and gentlemen, in the few remaining moments, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you once again for your many kind letters of encouragement that come in from week to week. And also, we'd like to answer a few questions about our program which seem common to many of the letters that we receive from you. Many of you have inquired why, at the end of the program, in recounting the punishment of the criminal involved in the particular case, we generally refer to the sentence received as the term prescribed by law. Well, we use this reference for the following reason. In the state of California, the length of a convicted criminal's prison term is not set by the court, but by the state adult authority. Now, most of the time, a criminal is merely found guilty by the court and then sentenced to the state penitentiary. After he serves a year in prison, the convict has a hearing before this state adult authority, at which time his actual sentence is set. So you can see why we can't give you the actual sentence in many cases. Now, other questions common to many of your letters concern some of the authentic technical police terminology which comes up from time to time on Dragnet. With the help of George Fenneman, we'd like to explain some of the more common ones for you, if we may. First, you've heard us use the term or the letters APB.
APB. That's an all-points bulletin, a communication dispatched to all divisions and law enforcement agencies throughout the state.
And then we feel sure that you remember the term Mama Sheet.
A Mama Sheet is the master information form on a criminal in a police department file. It contains his complete description, his habits, relatives, acquaintances, everything about him known to the police.
Well, thank you, George, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your very fine letters. From time to time, if we may, we'll take this opportunity to explain a few more of our authentic police terminology. Thank you.
Robert W. Cheney, owner and operator of Cheney's Video Repairs, was tried and convicted on several counts of violating Section 484 PC, petty theft. He was fined $200 and received the sentence as prescribed by law. Petty theft is punishable by imprisonment in the county jail for not more than 6 months.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dragnet wishes to thank the Los Angeles Daily News and its feature writer, Jack Kinnett, for their valuable assistance in preparing this case for presentation. It is our combined belief and knowledge that not all television repair servicemen are dishonest and unscrupulous in their practices. A great percentage of these technicians are forthright and conduct their business in strict compliance with the Code of Ethics. It is these men who, when informed of the unfair conditions that exist in their trade, will drive the dishonest.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
It's the Silver Jubilee on NBC. For 25 years, NBC has been bringing you the very best in radio entertainment. Listen now to another exciting story on Counterspy coming up on NBC.
HOJO Radio. We're your old-time radio headquarters. Stay tuned.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. An elderly man is found dead in the living room of his home. There's a single bullet hole in his chest. On the surface, it appears the man took his own life, but the evidence points to the opposite. Your job? Investigate.
More and more smokers coast to coast are saying this about king-size Fatima every day.
They're different. Better.
They are different. So pleasing.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality. You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, January 10th. It was cold in Los Angeles. We were working a day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. It was 8:25 a.m. when I got to the police academy, the doctor's office. Morning.
Morning. Can I help you?
I'm checking in for my annual physical.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see here. Name?
Joe Friday.
Let's see. Friday, just like the day in the week?
Yeah, that's right.
Friday. Can't seem to find it. You sure you were notified?
Yeah, the teletype was posted in the office a couple of days ago. Annual physical exams. My name was right near the top of the list. Friday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, here you are. Joseph Friday.
That's it, yeah.
Well, all right, Friday. Let's get your name down here.
Okay.
Age?
34.
Where you work?
Central Homicide.
Serial number?
2288.
2288. Okay, Friday, you want to step this way?
All right.
Slip off your shoes, your coat, and shirt.
Okay. Well, they keeping you busy?
Oh, pretty busy, yeah. 4,500 men in the department. Everyone has to have an annual physical. Better get you weighed and send you along inside. Doc's probably ready for you by now.
Okay.
Over here. Oh, never fails. Dr. Vance's office. Who's that? Just a minute. It's for you, Friday, your office.
Oh, thank you. Friday talking.
This is Ben. Joe, you about through over there?
No, not quite. I haven't seen Doc Vance yet. What's the matter?
Dead body called up by Westlake Park. Radio cars out there now.
No one else in homicide to handle it?
Not right now. They're pretty busy. Now, you should coming back to the office. Why don't you meet me out there? It's 932 Old Laurel Lane.
All right, just a minute. Have that pad, Doc. Thank you. 9320 Laurel. I got it. What's the story?
Old man was found dead in his living room, bullet hole in his chest. Men in the radio car said at first it looked like the old man had killed himself. They're not so sure now.
How do you mean?
They think he had some help.
8:45 a.m. I left the doctor's office at the police academy and drove to the Westlake area where I met Ben in front of the cottage where the dead body had been found. We went inside and checked with one of the men from the radio car who was standing by. The dead man was identified as Martin Latimer, age 68, a retired owner of a couple of neighborhood grocery stores in the city. He was lying sprawled on his side on the floor. There was a bullet hole in his chest just above the heart where the slug had entered the body. There was another, larger wound in the back through the left shoulder blade where the bullet had emerged. Approximately 8 feet across the room from the body was another chair. There was a Winchester rifle wired firmly to the top, its muzzle pointing directly above the spot where the body lay on the floor. A thick white string was found wound firmly around the trigger of the rifle. It ran through a metal ring on the stock of the gun and stretched across the room where it had been tied to the dead man's right index finger. At first glance, it seemed like an obvious suicide arrangement. Officer Harkness, one of the men in the radio car who had answered the call, took exception.
I don't know, Sergeant. Maybe I'm all wet. Just doesn't gel right for me.
Who discovered the body, Harkness?
Next door neighbor, Mrs. Donworth. My partner's with her now. You fellas call the crime lab?
Yeah, they're on their way out. Was the old man the only one who lived in the house here?
Yeah, that's what the neighbor told us. Sure like to see what the crime lab crew's going to think of it.
What's the big question, Harkness?
Well, I know it's none of my business, Sergeant. You fellas are the detectives. I just couldn't help but notice, though.
What's that?
Well, here. Now, over here, this rifle wired to the back of the chair.
Yeah.
Now, take a sight along the barrel of the rifle. See what you think.
Right through the sight, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Pointed right above the armchair over there, isn't it? It's in a straight line with the body. Well, how much fist? The old man pulled the string tied to his index finger, and it set off the trigger. Took the slug through the chest, and everything.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Now, here, take a look at the wall directly behind the old man.
Yeah?
The slug went clean through the body, we know that. Through the chest above the heart, then out through the shoulder blade.
I see what you mean.
Oh, here, now, take a look at this wall here. Got a mark on it.
Yeah. One thing, sure, if the old man was shot in that position, the slug had to come this way.
Well?
Pass through his body right about this height here.
Uh-huh.
We ought to find the bullet hole in this wall. Right around here.
Yeah, it ought to be. Not a trace of a slug there. Not much chance it could have been deflected, do you think?
Well, that's what I thought. It's a 30-30 Winchester, enough power to go through a couple of plaster walls.
Well, we know the slug went through the body. It's got to be somewhere in one of these 4 walls.
Take a look over here and see what you think.
All right.
Down here near the corner of the wall.
Where?
Well, right here.
Yeah, it looks like it. Ben?
Something's out of kilter. The rifle never could have thrown the slug this far down on the wall. Not the way it's wired to the chair there.
And besides that, it's way out of line. At least 4 feet the way I figured here.
Well, I know it's none of my business, Sergeant. I couldn't help but notice it, though. You want me to stand by outside?
Yeah, okay, if you will. Would you mind checking with your partner? See if we can have that neighbor lady brought over for questioning, will you?
Right, I'll check with him now.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to take another look at that rifle.
Well, it sure doesn't add up too well, does it? Even if the old man jerked the gun when he pulled the trigger with that string arrangement, the slug couldn't have passed through his chest, out his back, and then hit the wall where it did.
Well, stand just behind the body, will you, Joe? See if it's possible to line it up.
All right, what about here? Look about it to you?
Yeah. That's good. Let me see here. No, not a chance, Joe. It's way out of line. That's the gun that killed him. The old man didn't pull the trigger. Not from there, anyway.
Well, there's one other chance.
Yeah?
Somebody pulled it for him. Lieutenant Lee Jones arrived with his crime lab crew and went to work. We put in a call to the coroner's office, and then the dead man's neighbor, Mrs. Elsie Donworth, was brought over for questioning. She was a chubby, matronly lady, about 45. She told us she'd been a neighbor to the aging Martin Latimer for more than 10 years.
I take it you knew Mr. Latimer pretty well, ma'am.
Yeah, I suppose. Didn't have any relatives, poor man. All alone. He was in the grocery business for years. He made some nice money, I guess. Retired about 8 years ago, sold both his stores. Had an income from a mortgage on one of them. $150 a month. Yeah, he was very comfortable. Wasn't a penny pincher at all, but he was thrifty. It was the same way with my husband, Claude. He used to say, take care of the dimes and the dollars will take care of themselves.
Well, Mrs. Donworth, can you think of any reason why Latimer would want to take his own life?
Oh, I suppose. The poor old man is getting along in years. For a long time there, he was afraid he was going to die with cancer.
Is that so? Did Mr. Latimer have cancer, do you know?
Oh, no, he kept thinking he was going to die with it. Could you, come next door to my place while I get some of my laundry out? We could talk there. It's just across the yard.
All right, ma'am, that'll be fine. Did you want to tell Lee Jones we'll be next door, Ben? Guess you better let Harkness know, too.
Yeah, right. I'll tell him.
Thank you.
About that cancer business, officer, Mr. Latimer was always talking about it.
Yes, ma'am.
He finally went to a doctor about it. That was last week only. He came back and he told me the doctor said for him not to be so silly about it. He was a well man in good health.
When was the last time that you saw Latimer, ma'am?
Day before yesterday. Oh, we laughed and joked over the back fence. Poor old man. He had such a nice smile. Reminded me a good deal of Claude. That was my husband.
Well, I'd like to have your honest opinion, Miss Donwood. Do you think Mr. Latimer killed himself?
Well, I suppose that rifle in there, that terrible contraption.
Joe, I wonder if I could talk to you a minute.
Yeah, okay. Would you like to go on ahead over next door, ma'am? We'll be right with you.
All right, officer.
Thank you very much. We'll be right there, ma'am. Yeah.
Crime lab crew's having a field day. They say if the old man shot himself with that rig, it ought to make Ripley's call him.
They find anything definite?
Dusted the rifle for fingerprints. Didn't find a warrant. How about that?
Yeah, it makes less sense than that slug buried in the corner of the wall, doesn't it?
Sure does. Checked the desk in the living room, found some correspondence Latimer was having with some woman through a Lonely Hearts Club.
Yeah? Did you find any reason why he'd want to die?
Pretty good reason why he'd want to live.
Huh?
Found a photograph. Beautiful girl. Looked to be about 24 or 5.
What about it?
She was going to marry him.
The crime lab crew continued their routine investigation of Martin Latimer's cottage. They removed a .30-30 slug from the corner of one wall. Ben and I went next door to question the neighbor, Mrs. Donworth. There didn't seem to be any common ground at all between the evidence in the house and the information that she had to offer. As we continued questioning her, Mrs. Donworth remembered that a month before, Latimer had told her that something might happen to him and he wanted to make out a will. He asked if she would witness the will. A few days later, Latimer's lawyer came to the house and Mrs. Donworth witnessed the signing. At that time, she said Latimer made the remark, "I don't feel like going on much longer anyway. If death means arrest, I think I deserve one." Mrs. Donworth kept busy with the laundry while we interviewed her.
Could you let me get by to the manual, officer? I have to get some of this ironing done.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I'm afraid there's one thing I don't remember you telling us, ma'am. Did you hear anything out of the ordinary going on next door, or this morning or last night?
No, nothing I noticed anyway. Officer, did you see that knob on the washer, the one on the left?
Oh, you mean this over here?
Yeah, just lift it up and turn it around to off, please. It says off right there in the dial.
Yes, ma'am, I see. There you are.
Yeah, thanks. No, there was nothing I heard from next door to remark about. Of course, it's so noisy around here that time of morning, you can't even hear yourself think anyway.
How's that, ma'am?
Trucks passing by up and down. Every morning. They're not small trucks either. They start in at 6 a.m. They rattle past for 2-3 hours, please.
The first good explanation we've had on this thing.
Could you give us the names of some of the other people on the street who knew Mr. Latimer pretty well, Mrs. Donwood?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't think any of them knew the poor old man as well as I did. Most of them are younger folks, parties and things. When you get up around 65 or past it, like Mr. Latimer, parties don't mean so much anymore.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Yeah. Just a nice, quiet home with a good heating system. Good books on the shelf. Good man around the house. Is that all you can ask for?
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you very much. We'll leave our card here in case you want to contact us for any reason.
All right, officer.
There's one more thing, Mrs. Donworth. We understand Latimer was corresponding with several women through a Lonely Hearts Club. Did he ever mention that to you?
No, he never did. I found out from the mailman. He's a regular gossip.
And Latimer never mentioned any of the women that he corresponded with, is that right?
Well, I pretended I didn't even know about it. He never brought it up. Don't understand why he'd want to meet a lady that way. All most of them are looking for is a man with money so they can quit work and lay around the house.
Well, thanks again, Mrs. Donworth. It's been very helpful.
Yeah. Poor old man. I wonder what made him write letters after silly women. Little good they'd have done him. He wrote letters all over the country. Getting tired of working myself. Could have saved the postage, too.
Beg your pardon?
I was right next door. Would have married him in a minute.
We left Mrs. Donworth's house a few minutes past noon, and we went back next door to Latimer's cottage. The crime lab crew had finished their investigation, and the deputy coroner arrived. He took the body downtown for autopsy. We talked over the crime lab findings with Lieutenant Lee Jones, and he felt the same way that Ben and I did. The theory that Latimer had shot himself to death was possible in many respects, but it was far from plausible. We checked through Latimer's correspondence with the women that he'd contacted by mail through the Lonely Hearts Club, especially the young girl he obviously intended to marry, judging from his letters to her. Her picture showed her to be a brunette, dark eyes, young, and very attractive. The inscription at the bottom read, "With love, Catherine." There was no return address on either the photo or the letter. Ben called to check with the Lonely Hearts Club.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's all right. We'll probably be dropping down to talk to you. Yes, boy.
What'd they say?
Might be it, Joe. Club secretary says they've been having trouble with somebody who signs a picture just like this one. With love, Catherine. I described the picture, and the secretary says it's the same girl.
What's the angle?
The girl doesn't belong to the club, but somehow she got a list of the members and their addresses. She writes to them, usually old men, gets them set for marriage, and they send for her. Her letters come from the east, from different cities. She writes and asks for train fare out here. The men send her the money for clothes and train fare, and that's the last of it. She's gone.
Oh, it adds up all right. And this one letter here. This one. I hate to ask you, dear, but if you could send me the traveling money and just a little extra for some clothes, I will take the first train and be with you in a week to become your wife, awaiting that precious moment and so on.
Kind of poured it on thick. What's the date on there?
Let's see, December 30th. It's 12 days ago.
What do you think?
That's possible. She could have showed up, tried to grab all the old man's money she could find. Maybe he caught her at it. She killed him, rigged up this phony setup to make it look like Latimer shot himself, huh?
And to hold more water if we could find out she really came here. Maybe we better start ringing a few doorbells. The other neighbors might come up with something. What do you say?
Let me see that girl's picture again, will you?
Yeah, here you are. No photographer's name.
Now, look in the back here, Ben.
Yeah?
No, down here in the corner. Right in the corner of the picture mounting.
Oh, yeah. XXX6Y3. Must be some kind of manufacturer's marking. Photography supply. Guess it stands for the type of paper, huh? You know anything about the photo business?
No, I don't.
Neither do I.
Let's find somebody who does, huh? Before we drove back to the office, Ben and I covered the rest of the neighborhood and talked to everybody who knew the dead man, Martin Latimer, even remotely. They told us nothing that we didn't already know. There'd been no strangers seen visiting the old man. No one had noticed anything out of the ordinary in Latimer's daily routine. 3 o'clock that afternoon, we checked with the police photo lab. They told us that the symbols stamped on the cardboard frame of the photograph signed Catherine were symbols used by a photo supply company up in San Francisco. We went back to the office and got in touch with the San Francisco firm. We were told that the symbols indicated the style and the size of photographic mounting, and further, that this particular type of mounting was distributed only throughout 7 western states. They gave us a list of 18 photo studios in Los Angeles who kept that particular mount in stock. It was a long chance, but we started checking them out. Meantime, we'd run the girl through R&I and gotten out an APB, seeking information on her. 3 days later, Ben and I had checked out 10 of the 18 photo studios on our list. The 11th was the M&Y Family Portraits on Melrose.
Yes, sir. Can I help you? Police officers, would you mind taking a look at this photograph here, please? Let's see. Would you like an enlargement? Got a special price on enlargements this week?
No, sir. We'd just like to know if you can identify this girl, that's all.
Oh.
Well, do you recognize her at all, sir?
I know her. Sure you wouldn't like an enlargement?
You're in a cruiser car of a Metropolitan Police Department. You receive a routine radio call.
All units, attention all units. Pick up and hold for investigation the following vehicle. 1948 Ford, 2-door sedan, black white sidewall tires.
There are many cars that fit this description. You listen for more facts.
This car will have extensive damage to right front end. License number 9 Robert 9 707. In the 7 column, 9 Robert 9 707. KMA 367.
Now you can pin it down to one. It's the same with cigarettes. There are many king-size brands to choose from. But when you know all the facts, you'll make your choice Fatima.
Here are those facts. Fatimas are the same in length and circumference as any other king-size cigarette. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma. Remember, Fatima gives long cigarette smokers all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Next time, insist on the best. Buy Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Saturday, January 13th, 1:35 p.m. We showed the photograph of the girl to the proprietor of the photo studio on Melrose Avenue, and he identified her as one of his customers. He told us her name was Doris Chambers. She was 22 years old and a postgraduate student in chemistry at the university. She came from a fairly well-to-do family, and her father was the president of a local neighborhood bank. She didn't even come close to the type of girl that we were looking for. We got the address from the photographer, drove out to the home, and interviewed the Chambers girl. She gave a younger appearance than she did in her picture. She couldn't recognize the handwriting on the photo, nor did she understand the inscription with Love, Catherine. After questioning her, it became apparent that she knew nothing at all about 68-year-old Martin Latimer.
I wonder if you'd mind taking another look at the handwriting on the picture, miss. Familiar at all?
No, I couldn't be sure either way. Seems like I've seen it, though.
Well, when did you say you had this picture made, miss?
About a year ago at graduation. My mother had extra copies made up. She liked it. I didn't care for it much.
Could you tell us how many people have prints of this picture?
Mama had 24 copies made up. She took 12, and I took 12. She sent them to relatives, friends of ours. Kept a few.
What'd you do with yours?
Sent them to friends, girls at school, a few of my boyfriends.
Can you remember if you autographed any of them?
Yeah, some of them. The ones for my girlfriends. Others I gave out plain.
Well, can you try and think who you gave those to, miss, the unsigned pictures?
One went to Carl, I know that. And Ray, and Fred, and Don, and Warren. I think that's it.
Wonder if we could have their full names and addresses, please.
Yes, all right. You know what I'm saving all this junk for? Old letters. Could I see that picture, please?
Yeah, here you are.
What is the same writing? I thought I'd seen it before.
Huh?
This old letter from Warren. See the writing? Doesn't it look the same to you?
Looks close, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have Don Meyer on handwriting check it over. Who is this Warren, Miss Chambers?
Warren White. Here's his address right here.
Yeah, I'll copy it, Joe.
Fine.
Warren and I went to college together. We were engaged to be married for a while, then I broke it off.
I see.
Warren's a serious boy. He was very thorough. Perfectionist. You know, Sergeant? Never does things halfway.
That's so?
Never known Warren to do anything in his life halfway, not once.
Well, he's going to have a perfect record if that handwriting matches.
What can they do to him?
I don't know, but they won't do it halfway. 2:55 p.m. We left the home of Doris Chambers and drove down Beverly Boulevard to 743 North Clairwood Avenue, an apartment house where the suspect was supposed to be living. We talked to the manager, and he told us that Warren White had moved without giving notice 3 days before, on January 10th, the same day 68-year-old Martin Latimer was found dead in his home. We got on the phone, talked to Doris Chambers again, and she gave us a lead on Warren White's married sister. 7:30 p.m., we met with the sister of the murder suspect, and she told us that her brother Warren had phoned that morning and asked for an emergency loan of $200, which she didn't have to give him. The sister gave us White's new address, and we checked it out. It was one of those run-down, futuristic-style apartment houses built in the mid-'30s. It was on a narrow road high above Sunset Boulevard overlooking most of Hollywood. White wasn't in, and the manager said he wasn't expected back till early the next morning. We had the manager let us in White's apartment. We waited. Midnight. 1 a.m. No sign of the suspect.
No denying it. It's sure a beautiful view from here.
It's the best in town. Be nice for single fellows up here, wouldn't it? Wouldn't work with the family, though.
How about you, Joe? Why don't you get your mother looking around up here? It'd be a beautiful place for the two of you.
No, I don't think Ma'd ever leave the house. She's been there for 40 years. I guess she'll stay there till she dies. Would be nice up here, though, wouldn't it? What a view, huh?
Well, why don't you try talking her into it? You got nothing to lose.
I might do that. Why don't you slide up one of the windows, get a little stuff in here?
Yeah. Oh, smell that air, huh? That's great.
Yeah. What time you got?
1:45. Oh, it's a long night.
We waited. 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 4:30. It was cold, and still no sign of the suspect, Warren White. 5 a.m., 5:30, 6 a.m. The sky was getting light over in the east. 6:30, 7 a.m., 7:30. We kept waiting. No sign of the suspect. We called the office and arranged for a relief. 8 a.m., we could hear groups of youngsters passing by outside, trooping into the main yard of a grammar school just below the apartment house. We kept waiting. At 8:15 a.m., we heard a car pull up in front of the apartment house. Footsteps came down the driveway, up the path, and stopped outside the door. We heard a key turn in the lock.
What is this? What do you want? You Warren White? Yes. Police officers got some questions we'd like to ask you. It's all right, officers. Why don't you sit down? I'm not going to give you any trouble. Huh? I killed him. Maybe I'll never know why, but I killed him.
You want to tell us about it? You must have had a reason for it, rigging it for a suicide. Do you have anything against him?
I hardly even knew him. He used that picture of Doris to fool him. Made some good money doing it. I needed it.
You willing to give us a statement about the whole thing?
I haven't anything to hide, officer. The minute I killed him, I knew it was all over. Right there in that 1 minute. I knew you'd come and find me somehow. I didn't know when, but you'd come and find me.
Well, okay, Ben. We better head downtown.
Yeah. What? It's a great sound, isn't it?
What's that?
The schoolyard.
Yeah.
The kids. Got a great sound to it. Good one.
You want to get your hat?
All right. How can anybody figure? You start in a schoolyard like those kids down there, running around, yelling? I started the same.
Better get going.
I wonder what it is that happens. An 8-year-old redhead kid. There must be one down there now. The other kids will grow up, get jobs, work, and die. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
The one kid will end up in an alley with a gun in his hand. How can anybody figure?
I don't know.
A bunch of kids playing in a schoolyard. Someday one of them's a killer.
Yeah, let's go.
You tell me. What's the answer?
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 2nd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, it's come to my attention that some people have a misunderstanding about the cost of Fatimas. Well, I'd sure like to straighten that out for you right now. The cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarettes you're now smoking. Yes, that's right. Fatimas cost no more. But in Fatima, the difference is quality. Buy Fatima in the golden yellow package.
Warren Thomas White was tried and convicted of murder in the first degree. He received a sentence of life imprisonment. He is still serving his term in the state penitentiary, Folsom, California.
Ladies and gentlemen, to build our strength against aggression, we've got to equip our armed forces with weapons of war and at the same time produce plenty of civilian goods so that we can keep prices down. Remember, the better we produce, the stronger we grow.
Just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next over NBC.
The origins of Dragnet can be traced to a semi-documentary film, He Walked by Night, in 1948, in which Jack Webb had a small role. Both employed the same Los Angeles Police Department technical advisor. They used actual police cases and presented the case in a just-the-facts manner that became the hallmark of Dragnet. It's interesting to note that Jack Webb employed that format in other radio series, some predating the film mentioned above. And now, more Dragnet on HOJO Radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. A gang of hijackers has set up operations in your city. Truckloads of merchandise worth thousands of dollars vanish completely. The criminals know their business. Their system appears foolproof. Your job, stop them.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself today.
You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Remember, in Fatima, the difference is quality. Next time, buy Fatima.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Saturday, November 8th. It was foggy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out a robbery detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from R&I, and it was 11:23 a.m. when I got to room 27A. Robbery detail.
Joe?
Hi.
Where you been, anyhow? I've been sitting here 20 minutes waiting for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been checking a couple of names through R&I. It took a little longer than I figured.
The least you could do is leave a note in the book. I do the same for you. I've been sitting here 20 minutes.
Oh, I told you I'm sorry. What's the matter? Aren't you feeling well?
No, I'm all right. I'd just like a little cooperation, Joe, that's all.
What's the matter with you?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I was mad when I woke up. Got a crazy house.
Well, what's the trouble? Did you have an argument with your wife?
In-laws are visiting again, 6 of them.
Oh, where are they sleeping?
All over the place, 4 adults, 2 kids, and a gray fox terrier. He's not even housebroken.
Yeah. How long are you going to stay? A couple of days?
2 weeks. I don't know how I can last it out, Joe. They're crawling all over the place. Kids screaming, dog tearing up the front room, no privacy. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, why don't you just level with them? Ask them if they wouldn't mind staying at a motel for a couple of days, huh?
I suggested that to the wife this morning.
What'd she think?
That's when the argument started.
Oh.
Hey, I almost forgot to tell you that truck driver finally showed up, that Frank Burris.
Oh, yeah, it's about time. Where is he?
Took him across the hall to the mug room. Got him checking out some coming-out mug books. Guess we better see how he's doing.
All right. He sure took his time getting here, didn't he?
Yeah, didn't offer any excuses. He's no more help than he was yesterday.
Yeah.
Surly. Not very cooperating. How you doing, Mr. Burris? You remember my partner, Sergeant Friday.
Yeah, Burris.
I got a headache. This is just a waste of time wading through all these pictures. I've been through 2 of these books already. I couldn't identify any of the guys.
Yeah, we know it's pretty tedious. We'd just like to have you check through a few more volumes, if you wouldn't mind.
Look, I don't mind giving you a hand when I got time, but I got things to do today. I got something on for tonight. Have to get a haircut, my suit pressed.
Well, this thing's pretty important to us, Burroughs. I know we're putting you out, but we need every lead we can get. We'd certainly appreciate it if you could just give us a little more cooperation.
I don't know what else I can do. I told you everything I know, just the way it happened.
A few more things we'd like to ask you about, sir. Some of the details you didn't make quite clear.
Oh, what details? How do you mean?
Details about the hijacking. Mind going over it again for us?
I laid it out for you the last time you talked to me, just the way it went. It's the same as the rest.
Well, how do you mean the same as the rest?
Well, the other hijackings are the same as those, no different.
You pretty familiar with the other jobs, are you?
Well, followed them in the paper, read the bulletin the cops got out on them. It's up on the dispatch board in the garage. Is that fresh water in that cooler over there?
Yeah, I think so. Help yourself.
Thanks. Gotta have a couple of aspirin for this headache. Can't take aspirin without water.
Yeah. You've been driving a couple of years for Lavelle Trucking Line. Is that right, Burroughs?
That's right, yeah.
What if you'd mind running it through for us again, Burroughs? Maybe there's a few details about the thing that you forgot to mention, huh?
Well, it won't be any different than last time. I pulled out from the loading dock about 6 o'clock yesterday morning, hauling a load of Scotch whiskey over to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled up for the red light at Alameda and Jackson. That's when the guy pulled open the door and got in next to me. Put a gun in my ribs, told me to look straight ahead. First thing he did was hand me that pair of goggles and tell me to put them on. Same kind the welders use. Front of the lens was covered with tape. I put them on. I couldn't see a thing. Guy took over the wheel and started driving.
Well, did you have any idea what direction you were heading in?
No, not with the goggles on. I tried to follow at first, but I got all mixed up. Couldn't tell where he was driving. Made quite a few turns. He drove about 20, 25 minutes, I guess, before we pulled up. That's where the switching point was. 2 more guys met us there. I could only tell by the voices. They pulled me out of the truck and put me in a car.
Well, can you tell us anything at all about that transfer point? I mean, were there any sounds, anything like that that would give you an idea that maybe where you were?
Well, I figure it must have been someplace out in the valley, pretty far out. No traffic sounds at all, just crickets, things like that. He got me in that car, drove around about an hour, I figure. And they put me on out the side of the road, told me to leave the goggles on for 10 minutes, and then they drove off.
Well, how about those 2 men at the transfer point? If you heard their voices again, you think you could recognize them?
I don't know. I doubt it. They didn't say too much. Not that I heard, anyway.
I'm just curious, Burroughs. How is it you thought of calling your company first instead of the police?
Well, it's their cargo, a whole load of whiskey. If somebody hijacked it, I figure the company ought to be the first to know.
I'd like to ask you just one more question. There's no offense intended here.
Yeah?
You ever been arrested?
Well, why? What'd that have to do with it?
Well, probably nothing at all. Have you ever been arrested?
I'd like to set you straight on it right now. If you think I was working inside on this thing, you got it wrong. I didn't have anything to do with it.
And there's nothing to worry about, is there?
All right. Yeah, I've been arrested.
When was that, Burroughs?
About 10 years ago. It was back east, West Virginia.
What was the charge?
Hijacking.
Our records showed no previous arrests for Frank Burroughs. For the next few days, he was kept under observation. When we got the kickback from Washington, it showed Burroughs had one previous arrest, the one he told us about, for hijacking. We checked all his friends, relatives, and associates. We found nothing suspicious. His employer said that they were aware of his police record, but they told us that Burroughs was one of the best drivers they had. There was nothing to link him with a series of hijackings which had been going on all over the city for the past month. Our crime lab checked the pair of goggles which Burroughs had been forced to wear during the hijacking. They were an ordinary industrial type, easily obtained and impossible to trace. Other than those belonging to Burroughs, there were no fingerprints on them. Late that afternoon, the missing truck and trailer was found empty in a deserted section of the valley. No latent fingerprints or other physical evidence. 9 a.m. the next morning, we met with Captain Didion.
Cargo's gone, huh? Not a trace of it.
That's it, Skipper. High-grade Scotch whiskey, 150 cases. Got out of Bolton all the liquor wholesalers. The serial number's listed.
That ex-con Burroughs, nothing turned up on him?
No, nothing. We double-checked everything about him. He's clean.
You didn't get a thing off that abandoned truck?
No prints, no physical evidence. Seems like they got it down to a science.
Tell that to Thad Brown. He's getting all the kicks from the warehouse operators. 30 days and 6 hijackings. How about moving faster?
Well, as you know, we got 12 stakeouts running down freight loads, Skipper.
Yeah.
Incoming, outgoing. Got 3 girls in the stats office doing nothing but making runs for us. No new suspect.
We got a meeting with an informant after lunch. He figures he may have something. There's nothing to bank on.
How about an inside tip-off on these jobs? Any indication the gang's working something like that?
No, nothing definite, Skipper. Jobs seem to be pretty well cased, though. We've checked out everybody with a record working for the trucking lines. No reason to think any of them had a hand in it.
Excuse me a minute. Didion. Yeah. Live Oak near Trenton Avenue. Yeah, I got it right. Thank you. We got another truck early this morning.
Where?
There's the location. Better move on it. Looks like they got their signals crossed.
How do you mean?
Doesn't make sense. The cargo they hijacked.
What was it?
A load of toothbrushes.
9:23 a.m. Ben and I drove to the intersection of Live Oak Drive and Trenton Avenue in the Hollywood Hills, where we located the latest driver to fall victim to the gang of hijackers. His story was the same as the others. He'd stopped his truck for a red light at a deserted intersection when a man jumped on the running board and pointed a gun at his head. The man with the gun took over the wheel and forced the driver to put on a pair of blacked-out welder's goggles. Then the truck was moved to a remote spot where the driver was transferred to a car and later released in a remote section of the Hollywood Hills. The hijacked truck was found empty a day later. And again, there was no physical evidence, no fingerprints. The driver could add little to what we already knew. The only point that made the case any different from those that had gone before was the cargo that had been stolen, a load of toothbrushes. We began an immediate check of the neighborhood where, according to the driver, he was first held up. It was a fairly remote intersection in the San Fernando Valley. After 4 hours of interviewing ranchers and gas station attendants, we talked to the operator of a practice driving range for golfers located just off the highway. His name was Fred Garrison.
Matter of fact, I did notice something out of the ordinary this morning, a little before 6 a.m., I think. Spotted this big semi turning off on that dirt road down the highway there.
Which dirt road is that, Mr. Gary?
Oh, right up the highway there. See it?
Oh,
It turns off by that clump of trees.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't figure out why a big truck and trailer be taking that road. Doesn't make sense.
How do you mean, sir?
Well, it's a dead end. No reason why a driver turn off there by mistake. There's a big sign right there at the intersection. Says not a through street. Right there. See it? Plain as day.
I wonder if you could describe the truck for us, Mr. Garrison.
Well, it's pretty good size. One of those big aluminum jobs. Black lettering on the side, I think. Yeah, it turned off the highway, went down the dirt road a little ways, and then it turned off into that grove of trees, and the driver cut the lights.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice any activity going on at all?
No, I didn't. Oh, maybe I should have walked over and checked it. I figured it was just some truck driver pulling up to catch a few winks of sleep.
I see.
My boy Dave was with me at the time. Wanted to check it, but I told him to mind his own business. Says a couple of minutes after the truck pulled in, he saw a gray sedan come down the road and park next to the truck, right in that same clump of trees.
Well, now, didn't all this look a little suspicious to you, sir?
Oh, I suppose so, in a way. I just don't like to meddle where it's not my business, that's all.
Well, did your boy Dave get a good look at this gray sedan? Do you know that?
You want to come in the office and sit down?
Sure.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, sit right there if you like.
Fine, thank you.
Let's see, now, where were we?
About your boy Dave?
Oh, yeah.
You said that he saw a gray sedan pull in next to the truck over in that clump of trees. Did he mention anything else that he noticed about the car? I mean, other than the fact that it was a gray sedan.
Well, yeah, I think he did say something else about it. Now, let's see. Wasn't listening too close at the time. Dave's doing some errands downtown for me right now. He'll be phoning in pretty soon, though. I can ask him about it then. He paid a lot more attention to the thing than I did.
Well, how long were the truck and trailer and that sedan parked in the grove of trees? Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, not too long. Maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The car pulled out first and took off down the highway away from town. That way, see?
Mm-hmm.
And the truck and trailer left a few minutes after. What do you figure they were up to?
We've got an idea. What time was that again, sir, when you saw the truck turn off the highway onto the dirt road?
About 6 a.m. Maybe a few minutes one way or the other.
I wonder if you'd show us the exact spot where you saw that truck park, would you?
Oh, sure. Here. You want to come over here with me to the window?
All right.
Now, you see the clump of trees there?
Yeah.
Eucalyptus.
Mm-hmm.
They border right on the road?
Yeah.
Maybe that's him now.
All right.
Garrison Fairways. Oh, yeah, Dave. How'd you make out? Mm-hmm. Oh, fine. No. Listen, a couple policemen here now. They're asking about that truck and that gray sedan you saw up on the road this morning. Want to know what you noticed about the sedan besides the color. How's that? Oh, you did, uh-huh. Yeah? Well, you better head back here. They probably want to talk to you about it. All right, Davy. Bye.
What do you have to say?
Oh, he'll be back in about 20 minutes. I figured you want to talk to him.
Well, how about the sedan, sir? Did you get a pretty good look at it, did he say?
Yeah, I guess so. He got part of the license number.
Fred Garrison's son, Dave, returned and gave us all the pertinent facts about the truck and the gray sedan which he'd noticed in the neighborhood early that morning. His description of the truck and trailer, what he saw of it anyway, matched closely with that of the latest vehicle to be hijacked. He described the car as a gray sedan, and he said it looked to him like it was a late model Nash, but he couldn't be sure. He said the first 3 units on the license plate were 7T7. The location in the grove of trees where the truck had been spotted was checked thoroughly. Outside of some indefinite tire tracks, there was no physical evidence. 4:10 p.m., we put in a call to DMV and asked for a rundown on the 3 license plate numbers. The next morning, DMV returned to us a list of more than 1,000 auto registrations, which began with the figure 7T7. We went down the list and gradually eliminated 600 of these as not being physically close in description to the car seen by Garrison's boy, Dave. We kept checking. Almost 300 more on the list were registered in distant parts of the state. That left us with over 100 vehicles registered in or around Los Angeles to check out. It went slow. 3 weeks passed. We narrowed the list down to 23 possibles. Tuesday, December 10th. We were checking registrations with addresses in the east end of the city.
What's the name on this one again?
Perry. Walter R. Perry.
Garage is straight back to drive. There's a car parked in it.
Yeah. Let's try the bell again, huh?
What do you say?
All right, let's give the car a look.
People sure do get careless. Nobody home, garage wide open, car sitting there.
Qualifies so far.
You want to check the steering post there, registration stamp?
Get it, yeah.
Check out all right?
Just a minute.
What do you got there?
Here. Found these under the seat.
Oh, maybe we're home.
Yeah, it's a pair of goggles. Take a look.
Yeah.
Both lenses covered with tape.
forgery division of a Metropolitan Police Department. Handwriting analysis.
Now, let's check it against the forged letter. The capitals print evenly. The O's and the A's are clean. No, this isn't the typewriter we're looking for. Yeah. Capitals print high. A's and O's are solid. P's slanted. This is the one.
It's the same with cigarettes. There are many king-size brands to choose from, but when you know all the facts, you'll make your choice Fatima.
Here are those facts. Fatimas are the same in length and circumference. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance as any other king-size cigarette.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Remember, Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma. You get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes. Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you are now smoking. Next time, buy Fatima.
Tuesday, December 10th, 2:15 p.m. The pair of goggles found in the automobile registered to Walter R. Perry were the same brand and style as the goggles used to black out the truck drivers in all the previous hijackings. Ben and I searched the car, but we failed to come up with any additional physical evidence. We left the garage, checked the house again to make sure that there was nobody at home. Then we went down the street close to the house to where we parked our car. We put in a call to R&I and requested a make on Walter R. Perry. He had no previous criminal record. A few minutes later, we spotted two women loaded with grocery bags come down the street, go up the stairs of the Perry house, and let themselves in with a key. We went up to the front door, rang the bell, and the younger of the two women answered. Dark brown hair, blue eyes, about 5'6", 28, 29 years old. We identified ourselves, and she showed us into the living room. She told us her name was Leona Perry, and that Walter Perry was her husband. They'd been married 11 years, no children. We asked her where her husband was, and she said he was out of town on a business trip up north to Monte Vista, California. We asked her what line of business he was in.
Well, right now, Walter's a jewelry salesman. He works for himself. Has to do quite a bit of traveling.
Your husband's blonde, about 5'9", 160 pounds, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
How do you go up north, ma'am, do you know?
Well, I think he went up by train. I'm not sure.
You have any idea how we might contact your husband up north?
No, I'm afraid I don't. He said he had a couple of business appointments in different towns in that area up there. He didn't tell me where he'd be staying. What's it about, Sergeant?
Just a routine check, Miss Perry. Is that a photograph of your husband over there on the piano?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When's he expected back, do you know?
Well, let's see. This is Tuesday. He should be home sometime Thursday.
I see. A minute ago, you said right now your husband's a jewelry salesman. Is that his usual line of work?
No, Walter's a truck driver.
He work here in Los Angeles?
No, he drove for a company up north in the Bay Area, Oakland, Berkeley. He had that job for 10 years, almost from the day we were married.
Mm-hmm.
And then last December he had a fight with the boss and quit. We moved down here to find work, but he just couldn't seem to get placed.
How long has he been selling jewelry, ma'am?
Oh, about 8 months, I'd say. He's doing very good at it. We have more now than when he was driving a truck. A lot of money in the jewelry business.
Well, it's just you and your husband living here, is that right?
No, my mother lives with us, too. We just got back from doing the shopping. I guess she's busy putting the groceries away.
I see.
Mom?
Oh, say that's all right, ma'am. I think you can give us the information we need.
Well, I'd like to know what this is about. I'd appreciate it if you'd tell me. Walter isn't in any kind of trouble, is he?
Just a routine investigation, Miss Perry. Doesn't necessarily mean your husband's involved.
I can tell you right now, my husband isn't involved in anything. Walter's never had trouble with the police in his life.
Walter has trouble with the police? What is it, Leona?
It's nothing, Ma. These policemen want to talk to Walter. They just want to ask him a few questions, that's all. This is my mother, Mrs. Burt. Ma, this is Mr. Friday, Mr. Romero.
I told you, Leona. I felt it all day. Something's wrong. Walter's done something, hasn't he?
Now, don't start on that again, Ma, please. The officers told me they want to talk to Walter, that's all.
What for? If he hasn't done anything, why do they want to talk to him?
Routine duty, ma'am. There's nothing to get excited about.
I knew it would happen. I felt it all the time. That funny job he has, selling jewelry, going out at all hours. Couldn't fool me. I knew it wasn't right. What's he done? We're his relatives. We got a right to know.
Well, there's nothing we can tell you definitely, ma'am. How about these odd working hours your husband has, Miss Perry? What's the reason for that? Could you tell us?
Well, I don't know. Walter works for himself. He just has to make business contacts when he can, that's all. Sometimes it's late at night, sometimes early in the morning. Why don't you stay out of it, Ma? After all, it's our business. Walter's in mine.
You just mark my word, Leona. Find out about this. That husband of yours has done something, and these policemen are after him. I knew it wasn't right. I felt it all along.
Please take
His jewelry business is big money. I should have left and taken you with me the day it started. Walter's a truck driver. It's all you'll ever be. It's where he should have stayed.
Why are you always picking on Walter? Why?
Because I told you in the first place you never should have married him. 11 years ago, I told you. I never should have come to stay with you. You couldn't go and marry one of those nice boys you met at school. It had to be Walter Perry. Well, maybe you'll see now. Trouble with the police. Now you'll see what kind of a man you married.
Shut up, Ma. Sorry, officer.
Well, I'm afraid that isn't helping much, Miss Burt.
I suppose not. What is it that can help? You have kids, you try to tell them something, make it easy for them, they never listen.
Now, that gray sedan back in the garage, ma'am, does anyone else drive it besides Mr. Perry, do you know?
No, Leona doesn't drive. Walter's the only one who runs it.
He drives it to all these business appointments he has at odd hours?
That's right. Only times he doesn't take it's when he's out of town.
You ever seen this pair of goggles before, ma'am?
No, I never have. What does it mean, that tape all over the front of them?
Well, how about your son-in-law's friends? Do you ever bring any of them here to the house?
Not since I've been staying here the last 6 months. A lot of different men call him on the phone. He goes out. Doesn't bring anyone around, though. Oh, I'm just sick of it.
Well, can you tell us anything about this jewelry business Mr. Perry's working in?
I don't even want to think about it. I raised 4 daughters, nice girls, every one of them attractive. You make plans for them and you want them to be happy and marry some nice fella, have a nice, comfortable home. You try to tell them and they never listen.
About the car, ma'am.
They get to be 17 and they know everything. My girls could have married wealthy if they were smart. A lot of other girls have done it. They had nice clothes, they got through business school, good home training, all this talk about love. They're all so smart. They know everything and they know nothing. This is what happens. They wake up and find out.
Would you finish putting the groceries away, Ma? Talk to the officers.
Anything you want, Leona. Didn't mean to upset you. Maybe things will be all right.
And just a few more questions, Miss Perry, that's all.
Well, whatever it is, I know Walter hasn't done anything wrong. He wouldn't do anything wrong. It doesn't make sense. There's just no reason for it.
I remember your father, Leona. 16 years we were married. One night he packed up and left me. There wasn't any reason for that either.
Wasn't there, Mom?
We continued questioning the wife and the mother-in-law of the suspect, Walter Perry. From the wife, we got the names and addresses of 4 close friends of Perry's who were supposed to be associates of his in the jewelry business. In the basement and in a loft over the garage, we found more than a dozen cases of high-grade Scotch whiskey, cases of expensive furs, and other loot taken in the hijackings. Mrs. Perry said her husband told her he was storing the stuff for some friends. It was only a small portion of the take. We called the office and got out a broadcast and an APB on the suspect and arranged for an immediate stakeout on the Perry house. And then, together with Matthews and Gonzalez from robbery detail, we began checking out the 4 close friends of the suspect. We could locate only 2 of them, but those 2 paid off. In the basements and garages of their homes, we found another portion of the loot, along with evidence that showed that both men had taken active parts in the hijackings. They were booked at the main jail on suspicion of 211 PC. A full week went by. The stakeout continued on the Perry house. Still no sign of him. Saturday, December 20th, 4:45 p.m. We checked back in at the office.
This thing's sure dragging out, huh?
Yeah, it'd be nice to wrap it up before Christmas, wouldn't it? Get it out of the way. Might work into a couple of days off.
I don't know if I'm too interested, Joe.
What?
The days off, I mean. We got visitors on the way again.
What do you mean, for the holidays? Who's coming?
Same old bunch. My brother-in-law and his wife and his kids and that little dog over there.
Well, they were just with you for 3 weeks, weren't they? What's the deal?
Oh, brother-in-law got home, found a notice from his company. He's been transferred out here.
Oh.
They're going to stay with us all through the holidays, and then they'll start house hunting. How about that?
You've got a problem.
It's got a new rug in the living room. I'll bet 20 to 1 on it, Joe.
What's that?
That little fox terrier. Oh, hi, Skipper. Anything before we check out?
Piece of news for you. Just talked to the Ventura Sheriff's Office. We owe them a favor.
What do you mean?
They grabbed Walter Perry half an hour ago.
Monday, December 22nd. Suspect Walter Perry was returned to Los Angeles. He was taken to the interrogation room where Captain Didion, Ben, and I questioned him for almost 2 hours. He was confronted with the evidence and testimony against him, and after another hour and a half of interrogation, he broke. He gave us a full signed statement describing his part in the campaign of hijackings. He also gave us the names of everyone in the gang, how they participated, and to what extent. He said most of the property looted from the hijacked trucks was stored in a rented barn located at the north end of the San Fernando Valley. A detail of men checked it and confirmed the information. The suspect's wife, Leona, was notified of her husband's arrest. 1:35 p.m. We completed our interrogation.
That's it, Perry. Let's go.
You ask me a lot of questions. How about it? Can I ask you one?
What's that?
Well, why do you think I did it? Why I got mixed up in this?
Well, according to your statements, you wanted the money, isn't that it?
Well, you've been out to my house, haven't you? You met my wife?
Yeah, that's right.
I guess you met her mother, too.
Yeah.
Well, then you got it. Nobody in the world could make me go for a hijack deal, but she could. I even remember the morning I'd made up my mind to do it. I was out in the kitchen. You'd hear yapping at Leon in the other room, same old roasting. A lousy truck driver, that was me. 11 years the wife and I'd been married. Her mother lived with us, 9 of them. Didn't get any better, didn't get any worse, just the same old yapping, her and her 4 girls. Why couldn't they listen to her? They were the best girls in the world. Why couldn't they marry money? Why did it have to be guys like truck drivers, stupid truck drivers? Same thing every day, always the same. 9 years of it. So I went out to get enough money to rub in her face, enough to make her choke on you. You can hate somebody for that. I don't know how many years they'll give me, but I'm going to hate her, every one.
Dad?
Oh, hi, Olson.
Want to remain jail, this and ready to go?
Only be a minute, Rex.
Right.
Thank you. All right, Perry.
Yeah. Sergeant, my wife's been told, huh? She knows about it?
She's waiting outside in the hall with her mother. You can see him on the way out.
Oh, thanks.
Walter.
Hi, honey. I'm sorry.
Walter, why did you do it?
Ask your mother there, honey. You heard as much of it as I did. 9 years worth. I guess it finally got me sick. She wanted you to have money, so I went out to get it. You come and see me when you can?
Leon isn't going to any jail to see you. I knew it all along. I knew what you were. It's the truth. She never should have married you.
All right, Perry.
Let's go, mister.
Walter. Walter.
Why?
How you figuring?
I don't know. How about some coffee?
Okay. Sure is funny. You see other people sweating it out, your troubles look like nothing. I'm just thinking about it.
What's that?
Those in-laws of mine.
What about them?
Guess I haven't got it half bad.
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On March 5th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, from our many talks with law enforcement agencies and letters from police officers, we're especially gratified to know that a great number of these men agree with us, that Fatima is the best of all long cigarettes. Now, our latest sales figures back that up. Every week, more and more smokers are enjoying king-size Fatimas. People from every state, from all walks of life. If you haven't tried Fatimas yet, buy a pack tomorrow. In Fatima, the difference is quality. The quality is better, but the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking. Next time, buy king-size Fatima.
Walter Richard Perry was tried and convicted on several counts of robbery in the first degree. He was sentenced to the state penitentiary for the term prescribed by law. First-degree robbery is punishable by a term of 5 years to life. His accomplices received similar sentences.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, thousands of people in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Illinois have been driven from their homes by floodwaters. Many are being sheltered and fed by the Red Cross. All Americans are urged to give through their local Red Cross chapters. Your contribution of just $1 will give you a feeling of justifiable pride.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.
Stay tuned to HOJO Radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned the homicide detail. A 30-year-old woman is missing. 3 months pass before a disappearance is reported. There's not a trace of the woman, no lead to her whereabouts. Your job? Find her. In Fatima, the difference is quality.
That's right. Fatimas are different. They taste better.
Yet king-size Fatima costs no more than the cigarette you're now smoking.
And because of its quality, more smokers are now insisting on Fatima than ever before.
You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself today. You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, June 9th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from the stats office, and it was 10:18 a.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Hiya, Joe. Been waiting for you.
Hi.
Ma'am, I'd like to have you meet my partner, Sergeant Friday. Joe, this is Miss Daly, Ruth Daly.
How do you do?
How are you?
Miss Daly came in to file a missing report on her sister, Joe. She already talked to missing persons, and they sent her in to see us. Oh, have a chair, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, what's it all about, miss?
I just started to tell Sergeant Ramirez
That's
here.
Romero, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Romero. Well, it's about my sister Bernice, Sergeant. She's missing. I wondered if maybe you people could help me find her.
Well, what's your sister's name?
Bernice. I guess you want her married name, Mrs. James Butler. Her description would be just about the way I look. Bernice and I are twins.
Mm-hmm. When did your sister disappear, ma'am?
In March. The first weekend in March. She disappeared on a Saturday.
Well, that's 3 months ago, Miss Daly. How is it this wasn't reported sooner?
Well, as a matter of fact, I halfway expected her husband to report it. I talked to him about it when Bernice was gone 2 weeks. He didn't seem too worried.
Is there any reason for him not to worry?
Well, there isn't a way. You see, Bernice has gone off before, about a year ago. She picked up and went to Arizona without telling anybody. When she came back, she said she just wanted to get away for a while. She didn't want to be around here.
Well, how long did she stay away that time?
Almost a month.
Well, how about your sister's married life? She get along with her husband all right?
Well, first 5 years they were married, it worked all right. Then it sort of turned sour. I don't know what happened. They used to be happy.
Well, what was the trouble, do you know?
That's the funny part. I don't. Wouldn't even know who to blame for it, Jimmy or Bernice. Both of them started drinking a lot, pretty heavy. Seemed to me around that time Jimmy began to get a little funny.
I see. Has he ever been violent towards your sister, Miss Daly? I mean, has he struck her or anything like that?
Oh, no. Really, Jimmy's kind of a milquetoast character. Timid, skinny. Most of the time afraid to say boo. Yesterday I went over to the house to visit Jimmy. I tried to make conversation. He just sat in his chair reading a book. Every time I mentioned Bernice, he'd kind of look up and growl at me.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick of it. I put on my coat and started for the door. He followed me.
Mm-hmm. Did he say anything at all?
Yes. When I opened the door, I turned around to say goodbye.
Yeah?
He had this real horrible look on his face. He said it right out loud, plain as day.
What's that?
He said, "You'd be surprised if I killed her, wouldn't you? You'd be surprised."
10:40 a.m. We finished taking a complete statement from Ruth Daly regarding the disappearance of her married sister, Bernice Butler. Before she left, we got the business address of her brother-in-law. A broadcast and a missing bulletin was gotten out, and then Ben and I drove cross town to have a talk with the husband of the missing woman, James Butler. We located him at work in a job printing shop on South Vermont, where he was employed as a journeyman printer. He was in his early 30s, thin, blonde hair, light complexion, about 5'7", 125 pounds. He wore a pair of rimless glasses. Ben and I introduced ourselves and began to interview him. He was close-mouthed and not too cooperative. He seemed to resent every question we asked him. While we talked, he worked over a paper-cutting machine.
You'll have to admit it's a little out of the ordinary, Mr. Butler. Your wife missing 3 months and you acting like she's been gone 3 hours. Did you hear me, Butler?
I heard you.
Well, what about it?
Just a minute.
Well?
You know, it's not ordinary her going away. I'm married to her. I know my own wife.
We talked to your wife's sister this morning, Ruth Daly. She seems to think you might know all about your wife disappearing.
She does?
That's right.
In my way, I got to get that other set of cards.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. There's something wrong with him.
Sure got a big grudge for somebody his size.
I wonder what that girl meant when she called him bashful.
Yeah, about as bashful as a wild boar in a plum thicket.
In my way, I got to get in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Haven't got any spare time to talk. I have to get this order out.
It'll only take a few minutes if you'll be good enough to cooperate.
Haven't got the time, that's all.
It's almost your lunch hour, isn't it? Suppose we can talk then?
Got no time then either. Why don't you talk to Ruth? She seems to know it all.
Now, listen, that's about enough of this, mister. We ask you civil questions, we expect civil answers. If you think this isn't important, change your mind. Your wife's been gone for 3 months. Nobody's seen or heard from her, and it's our job to check it. Now, you can talk to us here or downtown. You take your pick.
Have to finish up this batch first. We can talk out in the alley and back. I want everybody knowing my business.
That's fine with us. You do what you have to do. We'll wait for you.
Sure is aching for an argument, huh?
Yeah, I wonder what his big trouble is.
Maybe a hangover. Looks a little used up.
Yeah, could be.
If he had something to do with his wife's disappearing, you'd think he'd try to cover it. The way he's acting, he doesn't seem to care what we think.
Well, let's see what kind of a story he's got.
Okay, it's this way, out back.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
You ever been arrested, Butler?
Nope. Almost a couple of times. They couldn't get me.
What kind of trouble were you in?
They said they didn't get me. I'm not going to put myself in hot water.
We'd like to find out how your wife was before she disappeared. You know of any reason why she'd go off the way she did? Any reason why she'd stay away 3 months without any word?
No, I don't know any reason.
Well, how about your relatives, your friends? You checked to see if she might be with one of them?
They'd call if she was.
You never checked with them?
No. Think Ruth did.
You have any big arguments with your wife, Butler? Around the time she disappeared, I mean?
We had them all the time. She bothered me. She was too fresh. I beat it out of her.
That's so.
You got to. Give them a little freedom. They think you can take over. Nag and tell you what to do, what not to do. Sick of it.
We'd like a straight answer here, Butler. Did you want your wife out of the way?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, do you know why she's missing?
Could be a lot of reasons. Might know one.
Did you kill your wife, Butler?
It'd be silly to tell you that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Did you kill her?
Only one way I'll say yes to that.
Yeah?
When you prove it.
Well, it wasn't easy to understand. From the way it started, our interview with James Butler would get us nothing. We had no evidence against him, nothing to indicate definitely that his wife had met foul play, nothing but a suspicious remark he was supposed to have made to his sister-in-law, Ruth Daly. But once we'd left the print shop and got out in the back alley where he couldn't be overheard, he was full of information. Besides telling us that he'd beat his wife, Butler also admitted that he'd threatened her life on several occasions, twice in the presence of friends. He seemed to take some kind of a peculiar pride in admitting how violent he'd been with his wife. Ben and I took him downtown, questioned him further, and listened to him talk. He made veiled hints that he'd been involved in various criminal activities in this country and also in Europe, that he was a close friend with a half a dozen notorious underworld gang leaders, that he was ruthless and clever enough to dispose of his wife if he wanted to and still avoid prosecution. While we were talking, Ben had James Butler's name and description double-checked through the Record Bureau files. There was no previous criminal record listed for him. As far as we knew, at no time had he even been held under suspicion in a criminal investigation. The next day, together with Brian and Lopez from Homicide, Ben and I made the rounds of Mr. and Ms. Butler's friends, relatives, and neighbors. 4:25 p.m. We got back to the office.
Oh, hi, Lopez.
Now, Ben, Joe, what's doing?
Nothing great. How'd you two make out?
Yeah, it's a funny setup to me. I'd say the guy's a phony. Everybody we talk to, everybody who knows Butler, they all say the same thing.
What's that?
Guy's afraid of his own shadow. He's a milquetoast. Nothing to him. And what'd you get?
Oh, about the same. Every housewife around the neighborhood out where they live, they all told us the same thing. The guy's a henpecked husband. His wife laid down the laws, and he follows them.
Psycho case, huh? Must be.
Don't know how else to explain it. Every time I asked one of their friends if Butler beat up his wife, they laughed in my face. Said he wouldn't even dare cash his check on payday. Had to bring it home. If anybody got beat up, it must have been him.
Yeah, he sure tells a great story. He can make you believe he was a bluebeard.
Did you get any different answers at all, Lopez?
Yeah, one maybe. Yeah, let me take a look. Let's see. Yeah, here. Mrs. Irene Brady. She's an aunt of Mrs. Butler.
Uh-huh.
She said the same thing about Butler, about him being a real mouse and all. And she told us about the dizzy things he'd been doing the last couple of years.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, 4 or 5 times she said he just went out looking for trouble, go in a neighborhood bar, insult some big Steve, or he'd get his face pushed in. He always picked big guys. Didn't seem to mind getting beat up as long as he could insult them.
Not much doubt, I guess. The guy's ready for the nut for him.
Well, apparently he's got a big beef with people who push him around. Maybe he figured if he could take care of just one of those people, he could even up the score.
How do you mean, Joe?
Well, Mrs. Butler, the wife, she's probably the one who gave him the worst time. If he's a little bit off mentally, that'd make him capable of murder, wouldn't it?
Could be, yeah. Maybe the wife poured it on real strong, drove him to it.
Crazy as a coot, that guy. Too many movies, mystery books.
Oh, I got it. Homicide, Romero. Oh, yes, ma'am. How's that? When was that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, as soon as we can. Bye. That does it.
What's that?
That was his sister-in-law, Ruth Daly. Just told me she's positive Butler murdered his wife.
What makes you think so?
Number one, she says Butler told her so. He admitted it to her last night.
Well, it doesn't hold any more water than the rest of his stories.
I don't know. The Daly girl says she's positive she's got the evidence to prove it.
What's that?
A murder weapon. Bloodstains all over it.
4:45 p.m. And I got in the car and drove out to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Butler, where we found the missing woman's sister waiting for us on the front stairs. She told us she'd been doing some kind of checking of her own through the house that afternoon. In going over the attic, she said she'd found a claw hammer hidden under a loose board in the attic floor. She said the hammer was covered with what appeared to be dry blood stains. She took us inside, up the stairs, to the attic.
Careful of the steps, officers. It's an old house getting ready to fall apart.
Watch your step here, Joe.
Yeah, I'm all right. Go ahead.
Light's good and bright. That's how I happen to see the loose boards over here.
Did you pick up the hammer, Miss Daly?
No. I started to, but then I remembered about fingerprints and things. Just where I found it. Didn't touch it.
You want a pencil, Joe? Maybe you can get it in the claw there?
No, I think we can see it right where it is.
Let's see. Could be, huh? Bloodstains?
Well, it sure looks like it. On the handle here, all over the head of the hammer.
I knew it. I knew there was something wrong the day she disappeared.
Hey, look at this, Joe. I just noticed. These stains on the floor. Whole trail of them, see? Laid right for the door.
We better get the crime lab on it and have Lee Jones run the benzodine test on him. What time does he usually get home from work, Miss Daly, your brother-in-law?
About 6 o'clock. Don't know about today, though.
How do you mean? Does he work late on Tuesdays?
No, but I wanted to make sure he wouldn't be home when I came over today. I called the print shop where he works. He's not there. Called again this afternoon. Jimmy hasn't been seen since last night.
Is he in the habit of skipping work?
No, he never does. I called every one of his friends I know of. Bernice's friends, too. I called them. The places he hangs around, nobody's seen him. Not since last night, since you talked to him.
And you got no idea where he might be?
No. Just like Bernice. He disappeared.
You're in the statistician's office of a Metropolitan Police Department.
Have you made the run on this one? WMA, 5'7", 160 pounds. Suspect is left-handed, operates on foot.
We punched up the master. The cards are in the machine. We'll make the run now.
Okay, fine.
There are many suspects to choose from. You're looking for one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is the one we want.
When you have a choice to make, you want to be sure. And you can be sure of Fatima quality. That's why we ask you to compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Side by side, Fatimas are the same in length and circumference. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance as other king-size cigarettes.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma. Remember, Fatima gives long cigarette smokers all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. Next time, insist on the best. Buy Fatima. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Tuesday, June 10th, 5:20 p.m. Ben got on the phone and called around town to check further on the whereabouts of James Butler, the husband of the missing woman. No luck. We called the office, and they got out a broadcast and an APB on Butler. We drove downtown to the crime lab, gave him the claw hammer that we'd found in the Butler's attic, and asked him to run a benzodine test on the stains. We'd also made arrangements for Lee Jones to run similar tests on the stains we'd found on the floor of the attic. 3 days passed. Butler was gone. There was no sign of him. The search was intensified. Another 3 days went by. Monday, June 16th, we got an answer on the APB. A phone call from the chief of police in Tulare, California.
Yeah, James Michael Butler, WMA, 33 years, 5'7", 128 pounds. Blonde hair, hazel eyes. Hey, you got a North Hancock Street address down there, that right?
Yeah, that sounds like the man we're looking for.
He's a real weird one, Friday. Caused a little trouble at one of the taverns up here last night. Kept picking fights with the biggest truck drivers he could find. We locked him up after his third fight. He had her jailed in an uproar all night. Wild one.
What'd he do?
All shouting all over the place. Couldn't do anything with him.
Uh-huh.
Keeps telling everybody how smart he is.
Yeah?
Says he killed his wife, but nobody's ever going to find out.
James Butler was returned to Los Angeles, where he underwent further interrogation in addition to a psychiatric test. The test showed that he was definitely abnormal, but he was still judged mentally competent. The crime lab's tests on the bloodstains found on the hammer and on the floor of the attic in the Butler's home revealed that the stains were made by animal blood, not human. We questioned Butler about it, but we failed to get him to even admit he knew anything about the stains. He was released from custody, but he was kept under surveillance. A week passed. 2 weeks. Nothing developed. Still no sign of the missing woman, Bernice Butler. Still no definite sign of foul play in connection with her disappearance. No definite sign that her husband was criminally involved in any way. Considering all the angles of the case, we were still inclined to figure that he fitted in somewhere. He had some direct hand in his wife's disappearance. We stayed on it. Nothing happened. On June 26th, the twin sister of the missing woman, Ruth Daly, met Ben and I at the office and laid out a plan she had in mind. She insisted we try it.
You mean you want to work on his emotional nature and try to get some kind of an admission out of him? Is that the whole idea?
That's it, Sergeant. I know what a nut he is about being dramatic. I know it'll work.
Well, it's possible, yeah. How do you figure to set it up?
It won't be very hard. For one thing, you know my sister Bernice and I look quite a bit alike. People always take us for one another.
Yeah.
You can get Jimmy out of the house at night for some reason or other. I'll slip in and go upstairs and put on one of the dresses Bernice used to wear all the time. I'll sit there in the upstairs bedroom with just the hall light on. Just enough light so we can see me when you bring him upstairs. I'll even bring over Bernice's pet cat she had, Siamese. He always hated the cat.
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not quite sure about it.
Well, it might be worth a chance. It's not too orthodox, but maybe it'll work.
If I know Jimmy, it'll work, Sergeant. If you can just warm him up to it ahead of time before you bring him upstairs. When he sees me sitting in that room with a cat, I know he'll think it's Bernice. We're bound to get some kind of reaction. That's better than we're doing.
Yeah? Ben, what do you think?
Sounds like a movie script. I don't know. It's like she says, I guess. We're bound to get a reaction.
I know it'll work. I'm sure of it.
Joe?
All right, let's give it a try. The following night, a few minutes before 8 o'clock, Ben and I got James Butler away from his house on the pretext of taking him downtown for further interrogation. We delayed long enough to make sure that Ruth Daly, the sister of the missing woman, had plenty of time to get into the house, change her clothes, and take her place in the upstairs room with her sister's pet Siamese cat. Then we started back for the house. We'd made arrangements to have Brian and Lopez from Homicide standing by, concealed in the immediate vicinity of the house in case they were needed. 11:05 p.m. While we drove him back toward his home, Butler was talkative, but not too relaxed. It was the same line we'd heard before, how tough he could be when he wanted to, the same hints that he was an undiscovered killer, one of the more talented professionals in the deadly circles of the underworld.
I came from Illinois originally, Cicero. You guys know how it is back there. You have to stay right up on your toes.
Yeah. How long you been out here now, Butler?
You expect me to tell you that? I'm wise the way you guys work. You're not going to get me on questions like that one.
I understand you do quite a bit of reading, Jim. You come across anything good lately?
Nah, nothing lately. All the good books, they've already been written. Edgar Allan Poe, Stevenson, de Maupassant, Gogol. They know how to tell a good murder story. These new guys are a waste of time. Reading, that's all reading. That's what I like to do. Not that modern junk, only the best. You take some of Poe and Stevenson, for instance. I know those guys.
That's so.
Sure, I know their stuff well enough to tell you. I got whole pages memorized. How'd you like to hear some? Stevenson, maybe.
All right, go ahead.
I have to belie my nature. All men do. All men are better than this disguise that grows about and stifles them. You see, each dragged away by life like one whom bravos have seized and muffled in a cloak. If they had their own control, if you could see their faces, they would be altogether different. They would shine out for heroes and for saints. I am worse than most. Myself is more overlaid. My excuse is known to me and to God. But had I the time, I could disclose myself. That's out of Stevenson, you know. Pretty smart fellow, huh?
Yeah, sure is. You got a pretty good memory.
I read those books all the time. Nothing better. Is the house all right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, maybe I'll see you later, huh? Thanks for the ride.
Well, I'll tell you, we'd like to come in the house with you if you don't mind, Butler. One or two things we'd like to check over, if that's all right with you.
It's all right, sure. Guess you ought to know by this time, huh? Nothing I'd hide in that house that you'd ever want to find. Come on, let's go.
Sure dark out, isn't it? A little bit chilly.
Yeah. What do you want to check over in the house?
Oh, just one or two things. Just routine, Jim. We won't keep you long.
Guess I ought to be a little burned at you cops by now, huh? Getting all this rousting. How about laying off pretty soon? Maybe I am getting a little burned. If you can prove something on old Jimmy Butler, prove it. If you can't do it, let him alone.
Mm-hmm. We're just tying up a few loose ends here, Jim. There's nothing to get excited about. What's the matter? Forget your front door key?
I got it. My business, you learn not to forget anything. Can't afford to forget.
Yeah, it's quite a big place you got, Butler. You stay here all by yourself?
That's the way I like it, by myself. If you want to look at anything, you can look now. When you're through, I got some bourbon in the cellar. I keep a big booze cellar, you know. All first-rate stuff. What's the matter?
Oh, nothing, Jim. Thought I heard a cat someplace, did you?
No cats in this house. What do you mean you heard a cat? I hate the lousy things. I wouldn't have one.
Didn't you tell us once your wife had a cat? I think it was you. You didn't like it much, did you?
Killed the lousy thing. Got in an accident, killed it. Dumb wife of mine used to drive me crazy with it. Cat hair all over the place. You know how it is. Got in an accident, killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There it is. I thought I heard it. Guess you got another one, huh, Butler?
I'll get rid of that thing. I'll find him and get rid of him right now. Upstairs.
I suppose the house makes you think of your wife quite a bit, doesn't it, Jim?
What?
Well, I mean, you spent so much time in it together, you and Bernice. It's got quite a few memories for you, I guess, huh?
Find that thing if it takes all night. I'll get the axe and I'll find the thing.
It's up here, all right. Maybe down the hall there.
Bernice's room. She had the cat. What's it doing here? There's no reason for it.
Could have wandered back in.
Can't we get more light in this hallway? I can't see anything. Cat could be anywhere. What's it doing here alone? The cat was always with Bernice, never left her.
Oh, sounds to me like it's just around here, maybe through that door there. You think?
It's Bernice's room. I killed the lousy cat. He couldn't be in there.
Oh, might be it's just a cat out in the street, you know, out in the side alley, maybe, huh?
Mm-hmm. Probably not even in the house. Take a look in the room here. No. No, it ain't real. She's not there. She's not there.
Don't hurt the cat. Not the poor cat, Jimmy. Don't kill him. Not both of us. Don't kill the cat, please. Don't kill two of us.
You go away. You go away. You're not there. It's a fake. You're not there, Bernice.
Please, Jimmy. Not both of us. Don't kill both of us.
Some kind of a trick. Now, you go away, Bernice. You're dead and I killed you. You're downstairs. You're in the ground. You're deep in the ground. I killed you. You can't be sitting here.
Please, Jimmy. Please.
All right, Butler. Come here.
No. Get away. You get away from me. She's downstairs. She's in the ground. I'll show you. You can't trick me. I'll show you.
Grab him, Ben. Grab him. But I can't. I can't.
Dear God.
Come on, Ben. Downstairs.
Yeah. I tried to grab him. Tried to. He broke away. Yeah.
Lopez! Lopey!
Here, Joe. Here. Did you see it, Lopey?
Yeah. Good drop from the window. He came fast.
Yeah.
Not too pretty, huh?
Must be something, huh? How about getting a doctor?
Yeah, he lost the doctors when he hit that sidewalk. There's only one thing left I know.
Yeah?
Call a priest.
In his suicide leap from the top story of his house, James Butler died instantly on the pavement below. Afterwards, when the reports were made out and the deputy coroner removed the body, a special detail of men was sent out to help probe the grounds around the Butler home and also the ground directly beneath the house. The search was thorough. The ground was dug up foot by foot, and we found nothing. Butler's last admission before his death that he'd killed his wife and buried her in the grounds adjoining the house seemed to be as empty and worthless as some of the other stories that he told us. The painstaking search for the body of James Butler's wife went on. We found nothing. Alive or dead, there was still no trace of her. Butler's friends and relatives held a modest funeral for him, and he was buried in a small cemetery south of the city. In Missing Persons Bureau, there were still no leads on the case of Bernice Butler. It was still open. Summer finally got to an end. The fall season came and went, and then Christmas and the holidays, and then back into January and February. On a rainy morning early in March, almost a year to the very day when the case started, we got a communication from San Francisco. It had come to the notice of the police through the county health department.
In regard to your APB of June so-and-so last year, this is to inform you that Mrs. Bernice Butler has been a patient in the tubercular ward, County Hospital, San Francisco, since June 16th of last year. Apparently, her case was considered critical from the day she was admitted to the hospital. Last Thursday, she succumbed to the illness. Identification was established, next of kin notified, but no one claimed the body. She was buried at county expense. I trust this may aid you in establishing facts pertinent to her disappearance. Well, how about that?
Well, it doesn't figure, does it?
Sooner or later, you get them all. How would you figure out that night we had Butler at the house? I mean, we had his sister-in-law in there, and he thought he saw his wife?
Oh, who knows? Suppose he really had himself talked into it. He thought he committed 100% murder. Guess he thought about it long enough till he convinced himself. Must have worked out something like that inside his mind.
Mm-hmm. Imagine he lived right through it. Figured he really killed her. When it came for the punishment, he's ready to buy that. There wasn't any way out, so he jumped.
Yeah, mixed up can it get, huh?
That's too bad. All things considered, I guess he loved her quite a bit.
Well, it doesn't seem to matter now what he did. Wasn't much of a chance either way.
How do you mean?
Well, the girl, TB on one side, maybe murder on the other.
Yeah.
Either way, she had to die.
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On March 9th, the meeting was held in the office of Captain of Homicide, Police Department, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that meeting.
And now here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, we've spent about 2 of the past 30 minutes telling you why so many smokers coast to coast have switched to king-size Fatima. And they really have. Just listen to some of these brand-new sales figures. I'll give you a few of them state by state, alphabetically, just as they're listed here. Fatima sales up 92%, up 72%, up 107%, up 192%, up 69%. And so it goes, up and up. Thousands and thousands of king-size cigarette smokers are changing to Fatima, and there's a reason. Fatimas cost no more than the cigarettes you're now smoking. They filter the smoke exactly the same long distance as other king-size cigarettes. Yet there's a big difference. Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. Buy them tomorrow in the golden yellow package. Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
After locating Mrs. Bernice Butler in the tubercular ward in San Francisco County Hospital, final disposition was made of her case. Her late husband, James Butler, was cleared of any connection with her disappearance. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.
Actor and producer Jack Webb's aim in Dragnet were for realism and unpretentious acting. He achieved both goals, and Dragnet remains a key influence on subsequent police dramas in many media. The show's cultural impact is demonstrated by the fact that even after 5 decades, elements of Dragnet are known to those who have never heard nor seen the program. The ominous 4-note introduction to the brass and timpani theme music titled Danger Ahead is instantly recognizable, as well as the show's opening narration. Stay tuned for more Dragnet right here on HOJO Radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Juvenile Bureau. A series of crimes suddenly starts among teenage children in your city. Robberies, burglaries, bodily assault. There doesn't seem to be any reason for it. the crime wave grows. Your job? Stop it. In Fatima, the difference is quality.
That's right. Fatimas are different. They're extra mild.
Yet king-size Fatima costs no more than the cigarette you're now smoking.
And because of its quality, more smokers are now insisting on Fatima than ever before.
You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos, superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself today. You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, April 10th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of Juvenile Bureau. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Stein. My name's Friday. It was 10:27 p.m. when I got to 1335 Georgia Street, second floor, the squad room.
Joe, that you?
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, half a minute.
All right.
Let me get my coat on here.
Did you leave a note for McNamara?
Yeah, all set.
All right, let's hurry, huh?
Yeah. Same neighborhood we had the trouble Monday night?
Sounds like the same gang, too.
These kids are sure moving fast.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What is it this time?
Movie theater on West Fremont, small neighborhood house.
Oh,
They had a crowd of 15 to 20 kids in there tonight. Mixed group, boys and girls. For no reason at all, they started to tear the place up.
They do much damage?
Well, I don't know. We can see when we get there. He told me on the phone the theater manager tried to quiet the kids down. Half a dozen boys piled all over him. One of them pulled a knife. They tore up a couple of seats up in the balcony, moved out into the lobby, smashed mirrors and lamps. They beat up one of the ushers.
Lousy little punks.
Where'd you park the car?
Straight back. I'd give a right arm to know how this thing got started. We've never had much trouble from the kids in that neighborhood out there, not till this last month. Seem to be going crazy.
Well, it's not getting any better. Burglaries, car thefts, wrecking property.
Somebody's going to come out on the short end if it keeps up. It's got to happen.
Maybe it already has. When they were ripping up that theater lobby tonight, one kid got hurt.
What happened?
It's a 14-year-old boy. In the mix-up, he got shoved through a display case, plate glass.
Cut up pretty bad?
His eyes. They're not sure he'll see again. In police work, the standard law of cause and effect works like it does for everything else. When a crime's committed, there's a cause behind it. There's a reason for it. And when a group of normally well-behaved kids in an average residential neighborhood start running wild, there's got to be a reason for that, too. A month before, a rash of auto thefts, petty stealing, and public disturbances had broken out suddenly in the particular neighborhood. All of the incidents were traced directly to the teenagers in the area. Why the kids had suddenly decided to run wild, we didn't know, but the amount and the nature of the violations kept getting more serious. Juveniles who'd previously been picked up for petty thefts and placed on probation were now committing burglaries. Auto thefts in the area had jumped 20%. Misconduct and drunk charges against the teenagers, girls and boys alike, increased by the week. We had a fair idea what the root of all the trouble was, but so far we hadn't been able to trace it. 10:45 p.m. We got to the neighborhood movie theater on West Fremont and we went inside. The lobby was a shambles. 2 large mirrors had been shattered, lamps and sofas overturned and broken. The lobby candy counter had been wrecked completely. The glass showcases were caved in. The popcorn machine was smashed. The soft drink cooler turned on its side. The last showing of the feature picture was still going on. We interviewed the theater manager in the lobby, Mr. Clyde Barton.
They got real foul-mouthed. 1 or 2 of the girls, too. Some of the language I wouldn't even use at a stag party. I got so mad I grabbed 2 of the noisy ones by the neck and told them to get out. That's when it broke loose.
Well, what exactly happened?
The whole crowd of them jumped out of their seats and piled on me. I fell back down against the stairs and I started swinging. I'll tell you the truth, Sergeant, I was scared. I didn't know what to make of them. They seemed like a pack of animals, wild. I happened to hit this one kid and I saw him pull out a knife and come at me. Didn't take me too long to get out of there. Kids or not, when a bunch of them like that come after you, you run.
Yes, sir. You called for the police as soon as all this happened?
You bet I did. Just as soon as I could get out into the lobby and into my office. I locked the door. I could hear them tearing the place up outside.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at that. Smashed up everything in sight. I have to have something like this happen. Look at this candy stand.
Yes, well, how about some of the kids you recognized in that crowd, Mr. Barton?
Oh, say, the last show's ready to break. Folks are going to be coming out. You want to step back here into my office? We can talk there, be out of the way.
That'll be fine, sir.
And here we are. Pull up a chair for yourself, officers.
Yeah, thank you.
I just got the feeling there's something radically wrong going on with those kids.
This is the first time you've ever had any trouble of any real size, is that right?
Yeah. Or once in a while the kids fool around in the show talking loud, you know, but nothing like this. You ought to see Fred, my usher, and the way they messed him up. Brutal. And that little 14-year-old they shoved through the glass showcase. Gonna be a real mess if he doesn't pull through.
I was going to ask you, sir, about the kids in that crowd you recognized. You happen to know any of their names?
Sure thing. I made a list of them while you were on the way over here. I got a half dozen of them more. That's another thing I can't understand.
Yeah, what's that, sir?
When these kids start running wild, no matter what they do, they don't seem to care if they're recognized or not. You'd think if they wanted to raise the devil, they'd go over to some other neighborhood, some place where people didn't know them. They just don't seem to care.
Yes, sir. We've had the same report from a couple of other business people in the neighborhood here. Mr. Barton, you probably have a pretty fair opportunity to watch the kids around here from time to time. I mean, running the theater here and everything.
I sure do. Most of them are in here once a week anyway. Some of the kids I've known since they were in knee pants.
Well, have you any idea at all what's behind all this trouble? I mean, any real indication?
Maybe I'm just the suspicious kind, but I've got an idea, all right. Here, I'll get that list of names for you at the same time. There they are. 7 names in all. Every one of those kids was in that gang tonight. I can give you a hand tracking down their addresses.
Oh, thank you.
Something else. Here's what I was talking about.
What's this, sir?
In that scramble in the lobby tonight, this little box fell out of one of the kids' pockets. One of the ushers picked it up, brought it into me. Have a look inside.
Ben?
I don't know too much about it, Sergeant, but I got a hunch. I don't think I made a mistake.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, sir, no mistake. It's marijuana. We finished interviewing the theater manager, Clyde Barton, and then we talked to the usher, Donald Masters, who recovered the small box containing the marijuana from the floor of the lobby. He told us he recognized the young fellow who dropped the box, but he wasn't sure. He said the boy's name was Harold Everson, one of the names which appeared on the list which the theater manager, Mr. Barton, had given us. Half an hour later, Ben and I located the Everson boy's home. It was a 2-story frame colonial-style house in a better-than-average section of the area. The boy's father answered the door, a Harold Everson Sr. We told him what we wanted.
A little late to be making routine calls, don't you think? People have to get their sleep. Why can't you let it wait until morning?
It's not a routine call, Mr. Everson. I'd like to see your son, if he's home.
Harry? What do you have to see him about?
Well, do you have any idea where your boy spent his time tonight, sir?
He said he was going down to the gym, play a little basketball, and he was going to the library. It's a school night. He had studying to do.
I think maybe you ought to keep a little closer check on your son, sir. That's not the way we get it.
What are you getting at? I trust my boy. He said he was going to the gym and then to the library. He's got no reason to lie about it.
They had a minor riot at the neighborhood movie down on West Fremont tonight. A gang of high school kids ran wild and wrecked the place.
What's that got to do with Harry?
A couple of people recognized him among the gang of kids. They said he did his share of wrecking along with the rest of them.
Couldn't be. It's a lie. Harry didn't go to the show tonight. He told me when he got home. He even had his books with him. He spent the night at the library.
I'd like to have you take a look at this, Mr. Everson. Huh? This box here. Would you recognize this at all?
Yeah. Same kind of box my stomach pills come in. Got a little acid condition in my stomach. I take these pills for it. What's all this have to do with Harry?
I'm going to open the box for you, Mr. Everson.
I don't get it. What is this stuff?
Someone saw your son drop the box in the lobby of the theater tonight. The box contains marijuana.
It's stupid. It couldn't be right. I haven't got that kind of a boy. I know it isn't right.
Do you mind if we talk to your son? Maybe he can explain it for us.
Just a minute. I'll get him down here.
All right, sir.
Have a chair if you want.
Thank you.
Sure a nice place, huh, Joe?
Yeah, beautiful furniture, isn't it?
There's nothing like period furniture. Never goes out of date. Be just as much in style 10 years from now as it is today.
Mm-hmm. We better be sure and tag by Georgia Street Hospital on the way back and see how that kid's doing. You know, the one that was hurt at the show.
Oh, yeah.
This is my boy, Harry, officers.
Oh, Harry?
Hello. How are you, son?
Harry just told me, officers, he doesn't know what this is all about. He was at the library, like I said.
Well, sure, I was there till they closed. Somebody made a mistake. I wasn't at the show tonight.
Harry, do you know Mr. Barton, the man who runs the theater?
Yeah, I know him. Why?
He swears you were there tonight. So does one of the ushers.
Who?
A boy by the name of Donald Masters. He says he knows you pretty well.
I don't know any Donald Masters.
You go to the same high school together, son. You're in the same class.
I told you I don't know any Donald Masters.
What about this, Harry?
Huh?
This box here. Do you recognize this?
No.
What's the matter, son?
What is it, Harry? What's wrong with you?
Nothing. I don't know whose it is. It's not mine.
Was lost in the lobby of the theater tonight. Masters says he saw you drop it.
He's lying. I hate the kid's guts anyway. He's lying.
Thought you said you didn't know him, son.
What's wrong with you? What are you shaking for? What kind of a story are you trying to tell?
I didn't mean it, Dad. The kid got the stuff for me. I didn't mean to get it. I didn't mean to, Dad.
It's beginning to look like I'm the dummy of the family. Huh?
Take it easy, Mr. Everson.
Harry, you're a liar.
The kid got the stuff for me. That is the truth. I didn't buy it.
You want him downtown, officer?
Afraid so, Mr. Everson. Like to have you come down with him.
Get your clothes on. Go back to your room and get your clothes on.
Okay, Dad.
Hard to believe. My son using marijuana. I can't tell you how I feel.
I'm afraid there's going to be more folks feeling the same way before this is cleaned up.
It'd be different if Harry didn't have a chance, but good home, good training. The boys had the best I could give him.
Yes, sir.
Wife and I, we never thought we had a worry in the world as far as Harry was concerned.
Yes, sir. Maybe that's why it happened. Before we left the Everson house, we checked the boy's room and came up with another small box full of marijuana, which he'd hidden back in his closet. Besides Everson and his son, Harry, more than a half a dozen other teenagers who'd had a part in the theater brawl were rounded up and taken downtown along with their fathers for interrogation. By the time we finished our questioning and the teenagers had finished talking, we had most of the story pieced together. A story that had the parents so amazed that half of them thought the youngsters were making it up. The pattern was familiar enough for us to know that they were telling the truth. Almost 2 months before, word had gone around among the teenagers in the neighborhood that marijuana, along with various stimulating drugs, was to be had easily and in quantity for anybody who wanted them. Word was passed around that it was the new thing to do, the smart thing to do if you wanted to keep up with the crowd. In questioning the Everson boy, we found that he seemed to know more about the history and operations of the narcotics campaign in the neighborhood than the other boys did.
I know one of the guys who first showed up with the stuff. Name's Johnny Demring. He's about my age, 17. I used to know him pretty well.
How do you mean he was the first to show up with this stuff, Harry? What kind of stuff?
Marijuana. Some of the other things, you know, yellow jackets, goofballs. More of the kids go for them than they do for marijuana.
Do the youngsters know what these goofballs are made of, son? Do they know what they are?
Well, it's dope, I guess. Narcotics. The kids get a big kick out of them. I guess that's all they care.
Mm-hmm. This Johnny Demring, does he sell the stuff around the neighborhood, Harry?
Yeah, he was the first one. He's got a couple of other kids selling for him now. A couple of them are girls. They sell a lot for him. Johnny makes pretty good money.
Yeah, I guess he does. Where does he get the stuff from, do you know?
No, I wouldn't know that. Someplace downtown. Johnny knows a guy. He's never told anybody where he goes to meet the guy. Nobody ever goes with him.
Was Johnny at the show with you tonight?
No, he doesn't hang around with the kids much anymore. He's getting a little big time, I think. He's got his own car and a good-looking girlfriend downtown. Says he's going to quit school next month.
Mm-hmm. Where does Johnny live, son? Can you tell us?
I don't know the address right off. I can check it in the phone book for you.
How about the kids Johnny gets to sell the stuff? Can you give us their names?
Yeah, okay. I think I can remember who they are. You going to bring Johnny in and talk to him?
That's the idea, yeah.
I don't know if you're going to find him right away. He probably heard about the trouble tonight, and Johnny's a pretty smart guy. I don't think you'll find him very easy.
I think we'll find him.
Nobody knows much about him. He never talks about what he's doing. He never tells anybody anything. Pretty smart guy.
He told you. How smart was that? Complete statements were taken from each of the youngsters we brought in for questioning, and then in practically all cases they were released into the custody of their parents pending action by the juvenile court. With the information we had at hand, it took us the better part of 4 days to round up everybody involved in the narcotics distribution system, which had been set up among the teenagers in the neighborhood by 17-year-old Johnny Demring. As for the Demring boy himself, he couldn't be found. We checked with his family, his relatives, his friends, all his known associates. We got out a warrant for him. Then we checked the car that he owned through DMV. We got out a warrant for that. No sign of the boy. Narcotics detail gave us a hand and got their informants busy trying to track down the source of the dope for which the Demring boy had been the only neighborhood distributor. We knew it went far beyond him. It reached to the same vicious men who make their money off the hopeless adult drug addict. The same vicious men who today are trying to build a new market for their wares among the young people of this country. Tuesday, April 29th, 2:30 p.m.
Again?
Right.
Juvenile Bureau, Romero. Oh, yeah, Brady. Yeah, huh? That's right, what's his name? Yeah, okay, right away. Right, go ahead. Brady from Narcotics. They figure they got our man.
The Demring boy?
No, the guy who pushed the stuff to Demring. Mm-hmm. His name's Jocko Harris. They found him in the county hospital this morning.
Yeah.
Somebody got a hold of him 2 nights ago and gave him a good working over. If we're lucky, we'll make it.
What do you mean?
He's not supposed to last out the day.
2:35 p.m. Ben and I left the office and went immediately to the county hospital where we were allowed to briefly interview the narcotics suspect, Jocko Harris. He was in a critical condition with a fracture of the skull. He gave us a statement in the form of a dying declaration. He admitted being the contact man for 17-year-old Johnny Demring, and he admitted also that he had kept the boy supplied with enough narcotics to keep the neighborhood teenage demand for the stuff fully satisfied.
Seemed like a good kid. Never thought he'd turn.
What do you mean, Jocko? How'd he turn?
Why do you think I'm here?
You mean he's the one who worked you over?
Yeah.
Where is he, Jocko? Do you know?
No.
Do you know where he's staying? Do you have any idea at all?
No. Stole all my stuff. Every ounce.
What was it, heroin?
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah?
Get him. Fast. He's got enough junk to start a war.
You're in a cruiser car of a Metropolitan Police Department. You receive a routine radio call.
All units, attention all units. Pick up and hold for investigation the following vehicle. 1948 Ford, 2-door sedan, black, white sidewall tires.
There are many cars that fit this description. You listen for more facts.
This car will have extensive damage to right front end. License number 9 Robert 9 707. In the 7 column, 9 Robert 9 707. KMA 367.
Now you can pin it down to one. It's the same with cigarettes. There are many king-size brands to choose from, but when you know all the facts, you'll make your choice Fatima.
Here are those facts. Fatimas are the same in length and circumference as any other king-size cigarette. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
You get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes. Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking. Next time, buy Fatima.
Wednesday, April 30th, 9 a.m. The hunt for 17-year-old Johnny Demring was intensified. To our knowledge, because of the information we'd gained from narcotics peddler Jocko Harris, the teenage youngster had a large store of high-grade heroin, which we knew, because of his inexperience, he was unaccustomed to dealing with. In his hands, the narcotics immediately became a lethal weapon. We knew that Johnny Demring had only one market to deal in, only one type of customer he was acquainted with, the teenager. In previous transactions, we knew that the youngsters received only a low-grade type of narcotic, highly diluted. We knew that if Demring succeeded in dispensing the highly concentrated store that he had on hand, and the juvenile customers he served tried it on themselves, it would very likely result in death. 3 p.m. Wednesday. Despite all our efforts, Johnny Demring and the store of high-grade narcotics which he'd hijacked from Jocko Harris were still missing. Wednesday, 12 noon. We began rechecking every one of the possible sources that might lead us to the suspect. One of them was the boy's mother, Mrs. Frances Demring. We talked to her at work. She was employed as a multigraph operator in the mailing department of a large downtown department store.
Not since the last time you talked to me, Sergeant. I haven't heard a word from my boy. Nothing at all. Have you heard anything?
Well, yes, ma'am, in a way. We've got an idea he's still somewhere in the city. That's why we figured we'd come back and talk to you again.
Have you been in touch with your relatives in town recently, Miss Demring? I mean, those that Johnny might possibly contact?
Yes, there's just my sister and my mother.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess it just wasn't to be right from the start. Johnny's father ran away, you know. Tried my best after that. Never seemed to be enough. Suppose there's no getting away from it. A boy needs a father. You can try all you want. They still need a father, some kind of discipline.
Mm-hmm. How about the relatives you have out of town, Miss Demring? Any word from them at all about Johnny?
No, Sergeant, nothing. Would you excuse me, please? This run here's finished. I have to get it off the machine.
Sure, go right ahead.
Yes, a terrible thing, Johnny getting mixed up in all this. Seems no matter how you try, it's never enough. Never enough.
Do you have any idea at all where Johnny would most likely go in town if he didn't want to be seen, Mrs. Demring?
Where'd go? No, I wouldn't know that, Sergeant. First place, Johnny's never really been in trouble before.
Well, how about Johnny's school friends, ma'am? Would there be any one of them he might possibly contact in a jam?
None that I haven't told you about before, I don't think. Evelyn. She's the only one I suppose Johnny'd go to if he needed help, if he was in trouble.
That's his girlfriend at the high school, isn't it, Evelyn Maxwell?
Yes, that's right. Sweet girl.
How about a girlfriend Johnny was supposed to have downtown somewhere, Mrs. Demring? Would you know anything about her?
Nothing really, no. Her name was Betty, I think.
You have no idea where she lived downtown?
No, I don't, Sergeant.
Well, all right, ma'am. Thank you very much. Appreciate it if you'd notify us if you hear anything about your son at all.
All right, Sergeant, thank you. Tomorrow's Johnny's birthday, you know, I meant to tell you. Always expect Johnny home on his birthday. Seems no matter where he is, how he's tied up with his school or sports or something, Johnny always makes it home for his birthday.
I see.
I wonder how it'll be tomorrow. He's never missed once. Not once.
Well, if he shows up, I guess you can count on one thing, ma'am.
What's that?
He's going to have to miss next year. 2 p.m. Ben and I picked up a glass of milk and a hot dog for lunch, and then we continued making a check of Johnny Demring's closest friends. Next in line after his mother was Demring's high school girlfriend, Evelyn Maxford. We located her at her home, a tall, attractive brunette, nicely dressed and well-mannered. She seemed unusually nervous as we interviewed her.
I haven't heard a word, Sergeant. I know tomorrow's his birthday. The mother's expecting him home. I know he won't come, though. Sure of that.
How are you sure, miss?
Well, I just know that's all.
I'd like to ask you again.
Yes?
Are you sure you haven't heard from Johnny Demring recently in the past 2 days or so?
No, that's what I told you. Don't you believe me?
Do you know why we're so anxious to locate Johnny, Miss Maxford?
Well, I think so. It's about the narcotics business. You say Johnny had a hand in it. He was selling those things to the kids. I still don't believe it myself.
It's a lot more than that, the way it stands now, Miss Maxwell.
What do you mean?
Well, when he was at school, Johnny was kept supplied with narcotics by a man named Jocko Harris. He's what we call a pusher, kind of an in-between supply man in the narcotics trade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 nights ago, Johnny caught up with this Harris. He beat him up badly enough to send him to the hospital with a fractured skull. And then Johnny stole every bit of narcotics that Harris had in his room, some of the strongest stuff you can buy on the market. That's why we want Johnny, Miss Maxford.
I don't think I understand. What does it mean?
It means that most of the teenage kids Johnny's been supplying stuff to have been getting fairly weak grades of narcotics. If he gets some of this stuff to them and the kids start taking it, it might prove too strong for them. If they take too much of it, it could kill them outright.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see what we're up against. We've got to find that boy. We've got to find him soon.
Couldn't you talk to his mother? Maybe she could tell you something.
Well, we already have, miss. She couldn't tell us anything. That's why we halfway depended on you.
Why do they have to put it in my lap? Why does it have to be me? I liked Johnny for a while. I don't know what to think now.
Well, have you heard from him, Miss Maxford? Now, there's no reason to be afraid. You'd probably feel a lot worse if something happened to one of the high school kids, wouldn't you? Miss Maxford?
I got a call from him yesterday, Johnny. He wouldn't tell me where he was. I asked him, but he wouldn't tell me.
What else did he say?
He knows everybody's looking for him. He doesn't know about the stuff that he stole, though. I'm sure of that. He doesn't know what it could do.
Did he make any dates with you? Did he want to see you?
Yes, he wants to see me. He wants me to meet him tonight.
Where?
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Yes? I don't know. I don't really. What? 7 o'clock, all right. Yes, I'll meet you then. All right, goodbye. That was Johnny just then. He wanted to make sure I was going to meet him tonight.
When?
7 o'clock tonight, right near Westlake Park.
Which side, miss?
The west side, Sergeant. I hope to God it's not true.
What's that?
The narcotics he stole from that man. You said they were powerful?
Yes, we did.
Johnny's been taking them for 2 days.
6:45 p.m. Together with two other men from Juvenile Bureau, Hurst and Ty, we drove near the appointed spot along the lake in Westlake Park where Evelyn Maxford's meeting with the teenage suspect, Johnny Demering, was to take place. We staked out at a reasonable distance, and Miss Maxford went ahead to the meeting spot. As far as we could see, there was no sign of Demering. Somebody on the opposite side of the lake was playing a phonograph. The music came over faintly across the water. We watched the Maxford girl cross the long stretch of grass down to the lake. She approached the shore. We saw her stop and look down.
Joe, let's go. Come on.
Yeah. We ran all the way as fast as we could get there. When we got close enough, we found out the reason for the scream. He was lying face up on the ground near the edge of a small clump of trees close to the water. He was a good-looking boy, dark hair, good build. Took only one look, and you knew right away he was too young to be dead. You could argue for a week, but you wouldn't change it. He was dead. The girl stood over him, her face in her hands, crying.
No marks on the body, Joe. None at all.
Well, that must be it, huh? An overdose?
It's the way it looks to me. We better get her out of here, hadn't we?
Yeah. Miss Maxford? Come on, Miss Maxford.
Yes, Sergeant. It's all right. It's all right now.
We'll have one of the other men drive you home. We can take care of whatever has to be done here.
He was a good boy, Sergeant. He was smart. How'd he ever get started in such a thing? How could he ever make such a mistake?
Well, he's got the best excuse in the world, miss.
Yes.
He was 17.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On May 2nd, a coroner's inquest was held at the County Morgue, Hall of Justice, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that inquest.
And now here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, it makes us very happy to know that so many of you have switched to king-size Fatimas. Now, this actual sales report I have here shows that in state after state, more people are smoking Fatimas every day. In the first state, Fatima sales are up 97%. The next state sales up 114%. Still another state, 117%. And still another, 69%. Well, those are just a few. Now, in my opinion, that can mean only one thing. That thousands and thousands of smokers, coast to coast, agree with what we've been saying. Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. If you haven't smoked them yet, remember this. Fatimas cost no more than the cigarette you've been smoking. Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. So tomorrow, buy Fatima.
At the inquest, the coroner's jury ruled that 17-year-old John Andrew Demering had administered himself an overdose of narcotics and thus had taken his own life. All others involved in the juvenile narcotics ring, a total of 8 persons, were tried and convicted under the State Narcotics Act. They received sentences as prescribed by law and are now serving their terms in the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.
HOJO Radio, where the classics come alive.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A 64-year-old shopkeeper is found murdered, beaten to death in the back room of his store. The body bears the marks of a savage attack. There's no trace of the killer. Your job? Get him.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, You will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, February 19th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 10:56 p.m. when we got to 1016 South 12th Street, the Apex Men's Shop.
Yes, sir? Friday and Romero, Central Homicide. ID card.
Oh, yeah, Sergeant. Been waiting for you. My partner's upstairs in the back talking to the victim's wife.
You answered the call, did you?
Yeah, that's right. Miles and Keever, Unit 16R.
Who are you?
Miles. Keever's talking to Mrs. Wilford, victim's wife. She found the body.
What's that up above?
How's that?
Music up there somewhere. Sounds like a party.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a dance place. Takes the whole upper floor of the building. Wonderland Dance Hall, I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. When was the body found, Miles? Do you know?
Well, the wife wasn't very definite about it. She told us she came in the shop here about 10 o'clock tonight. The place was wide open, nobody behind the counter. Said she looked around a while, finally found her husband's body in the storeroom back there. Nothing for a weak stomach. It's pretty brutal.
What else do you have to say?
Oh, not too much. She's pretty closed-mouthed. Probably the shock of finding her husband like that. I don't know.
Do you want to show us where he is, Miles?
Yeah, it's straight back this way. Victim's name is Joseph Wilford. Owner of the store, ran it himself. Wife says he's had the business here for 23 years. It's a typical men's shop here. You can see that.
Mm-hmm.
It's around the left. In here.
Okay, go ahead.
He used this for his storeroom, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's it. As far as we know, the body hasn't been touched.
Yeah, sure took a terrible beating. An elderly man, huh?
The wife said he was 64 last birthday. She couldn't think of any enemies he has. Anybody want to do this?
Where'd he keep his cash? Did she tell you that?
No, cash register, I guess. Can't be sure till Leighton Prince gets here.
Yeah. Did you call the crime lab yet?
I'm waiting for you fellas.
You want to call him now? Would you mind?
Oh, sure, sorry.
Say, you might as well call the coroner while you're at it. Tell him there's no big rush.
Yeah, right.
Take a look around here, Joe. Looks like a tornado ripped through.
Yeah. Chair overturned, clothes all over the floor. Yeah. Come here, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the body.
Yeah?
His arms tied behind his back.
Ordinary clothesline robe. What's that cloth knotted around his neck?
I don't know. Looks like it could be a woman's slip, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever it was, they weren't taking any chances he'd live through it. The wounds on the head here, and the neck, see?
Yeah. Looks like he was stamped on by boots, something like that. Maybe a narrow heel. Sure brutal.
Doesn't look too much like a robbery motive. Not from the beating he took, anyway, huh?
Yeah. Looks like he might have had a taste for art. All over the wall here. Pin-up girls, fancy calendars.
I got the crime lab, Sergeant. On the way out.
Oh, thanks, Miles.
Notified Deputy Coroner. Anything else I can do for you?
Yeah, would you mind getting the wife down here, Ms. Wilford? We'd like to talk to her.
Sure, right away.
Thank you.
How's she feeling? Any hysterics?
No, she's pretty quiet. She went upstairs to rest. A couple of housekeeping rooms up there. Guess that's where she and her husband live.
We'll tell her she doesn't feel too well. We could come up there and talk to her.
Right, Sergeant.
Right.
What do you think?
I don't know. We'll see what the crime lab can come up with. We can start checking around the neighborhood after we talk to the wife, huh?
Mm-hmm. Let me take a look here.
What's that there?
It's funny. Not much place in the haberdashery for things like this, look.
A woman's nightgown. Black lace, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's packed in a gift box. Is that a card there?
Yeah. See if we can read it without touching it.
Mm-hmm.
It says, to a beautiful girl, you've been away too long, hoping we'll never be parted again. It's signed Joseph Wilford.
Seems a little funny, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Maybe his wife's been on a trip. He's going to give it to her as a present.
When's the last time you gave your wife a black lace nightgown? 11:05 p.m. The two officers who'd answered the call, Miles and Keever, brought the victim's wife, Mrs. Agnes Wilford, downstairs, and Ben and I questioned her. She was a small, slight woman, dark hair, dark brown eyes, a sharp nose and chin. She looked to be in her early 50s. She said that both she and her husband had emigrated to America from northern Germany 25 years before. We asked her how her married life with Mr. Wilford had been, but she kept dodging the question. We asked her how she happened to find the body.
The body's just as you found it, Mrs. Wilford. You didn't disturb anything?
No, I just came back from a friend's and looked, and I saw him, and he was dead. Somebody killed Joseph.
And you're pretty sure that your husband wasn't having any trouble with anybody? No enemies?
No, he didn't have any enemies not to do this.
Yes, ma'am. You lived upstairs in the back of the store with Mr. Wilford, is that right, ma'am?
And for a long time, yes, we lived upstairs in the rooms. It was nice. Saved money for rent.
Well, do you have any idea at all why your husband's dead? Why somebody'd want to kill him?
There was money in the store. They'd kill for that. You're a policeman. People kill for money, you know that.
Well, do you know where Mr. Wilford kept his money, ma'am?
There was a wooden drawer on the table in the back room. He would keep the money there. But I looked when I came in first. It was empty.
Well, was there any money in that drawer tonight? Do you know that?
Oh, yes, $300-400 anyway. Joseph always kept it in there. That terrible place up above, the music all the time, the noise. You should make them be quiet. The dance halls have been up there for a year tonight anyway. They should be quiet.
Yes, ma'am. About the money Mr. Wilford had in the store.
Maybe $1,000. $700-800, maybe that anyway. And then his wristwatch he had on, that's gone too.
Well, can you give us a description of the watch, Mrs. Wilford? What make it was? What it looked like?
Oh, yes, I can give that to you. It's white gold, expensive. It's writing on the back, Agnes to Joseph. One birthday I gave it to him.
Have you been away from your husband recently, ma'am? I mean, on a trip or anything like that?
No, I haven't been away. Why?
Well, we don't mean to upset you at a time like this, but would you know if your husband had any women friends? Miss Wilford?
If you have a cigarette, I'd like one.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Here you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you if you like, miss.
Thank you. Do we have to talk about it?
I'm afraid so, ma'am.
Most of them I know. For 10 years it's been like this. There were many of them. Young women. Joseph didn't try to hide it from me. I knew all about it.
And you continued to live with your husband all this time, ma'am?
I did. He'd bring the girls to the shop here sometimes. When they'd come, I'd go away for a while. After they were gone, I'd come back. Joseph and I would never talk about it.
You mean you never had any arguments with your husband about the women?
No. He never lied to me about the girls. He had them, that's all. It was something he expected me to understand.
I see. You say you knew several of these women your husband went out with. Could you give us their names, please?
Yes, there's an address book upstairs in Joseph's desk. The names are in there.
I see. Would you mind showing us that address book now, please?
Yes, we can go upstairs. I'll get it for you.
There's one question I'd like to ask you, Mrs. Wilford. If you don't mind.
Yes?
About your husband, ma'am.
I don't know. Hurt very much at first. And then by and by, it didn't hurt so much. Time, I guess. Habit.
Beg your pardon?
A habit. If you want to, you can get used to anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Even a man who doesn't love you anymore.
We went upstairs to the housekeeping rooms where Mrs. Wilford gave us her husband's personal address book. She also gave us a description of his wristwatch, which had been removed from the body, along with the name of the jeweler who'd sold her the watch. It was a Hamilton with a diamond-studded dial. The crime lab crew arrived downstairs and began their routine investigation. We finished questioning the victim's wife, and then we started checking the neighborhood. Only a few of the stores in the area were still open. We found only one possible witness, a newsboy, who told us that he'd seen an attractive dark-haired woman enter the store earlier in the night at about 8:30 p.m. His description of her was only sketchy. Another hour of checking the neighborhood, and we went back to the store. Lieutenant Lee Jones and the crime lab crew finished checking over the entire layout. They went back downtown to give a thorough examination to what physical evidence that they'd found. The deputy coroner arrived and removed the body. Together with Hubka and Forbes from Homicide, Ben and I spent most of the next day checking with store owners in the immediate neighborhood of Wilford's haberdashery. They could tell us nothing we hadn't already found out. We got the description and serial numbers of the victim's missing wristwatch, notified the pawn shop detail, and got out a broadcast on it. 3:45 p.m. We checked with the office.
We got a slow enough start on this thing, huh? Everybody tells us the same story.
Yeah, seems to be pretty common knowledge. He had a lot of girlfriends. I guess we better start checking out the names in that address book, huh?
Yeah. Sure beats all, doesn't it, Joe?
What's that?
Mrs. Wilford, 10 years her husband's dating other women right in front of her. It isn't normal. Can't see why she didn't just pack up and leave.
It's kind of hard to figure at that. Maybe she was still in love with him. Wonder how Forbes and Hubka made out.
I'll check the book, see if we got a call.
Okay.
See. No?
No word from him, huh?
No, Lee Jones called from the crime lab. Wants us to check with him. I'll call him.
Okay, fine.
2667, please. That's right.
Guess we better check with the morgue, too, huh? See if they got the body posted yet?
Yeah. Hi, Lee. It's Romero. What was it? Did you get the name? I see. All right, well, bye.
What do you have?
Lee talked to the coroner already. Wilfred died about 9 o'clock. Cause of death was strangulation.
Mm-hmm. How about those wounds on the head and on the neck?
That didn't do it. The cloth tied around his neck. It was a woman's slip, all right.
Yeah. Did he pick up anything off it? Any laundry marks?
He did better than that.
Yeah?
He got the name of the laundry.
After checking for all stains and markings on the woman's slip, which had been found knotted around the murder victim's neck, Lee Jones had examined it under a special fluorescent light. He found a type of marking used by only one large laundry service in the city. We checked with the managers of the laundry company and found that the slip had been cleaned by them for a Miss Elise Dressler. She had a North Hudson Street address. We started checking on her. The first lead came from the dead man's personal address book. We found the name of Elise Dressler listed along with her address and telephone number. There was a single word scribbled beside her name and enclosed with parentheses. It said Max. That was all. 5:42 p.m. We drove out to the address, a Spanish-style apartment house on North Hudson. We rang, but there was no answer. The apartment manager told us Miss Dressler worked as a dancer at a nightclub on West 7th Street. Ben and I drove to the club, a high-priced theater restaurant which was newly opened. We were told Elise Dressler wasn't due there until 9 p.m. We had a couple of ham and cheese sandwiches and some coffee at a lunch counter, and we checked back at the club a few minutes past 9. The show was already started. We located the Dressler girl in her room backstage. She was a tall, fairly attractive blonde. We started questioning her.
Can you tell us where you were last night, miss?
Yeah, all right. Here I work every night but Monday. We close then.
What time did you get here last night?
Just about 8 o'clock. I had something to eat, and then I changed to my costume and went to work.
Do you know if Mr. Wilfred had any enemies?
No.
Maybe somebody he was having trouble with?
No, maybe that wife of his. That's none of my business. I wouldn't know.
You can't think of anybody at all who might want him out of the way.
No, I don't think so. He and Max Hollins had some arguments, but that's the only time I saw Joe mad at anybody.
Who's this Max Hollins?
He's the man who arranged for me to come out from New York. Joe and Max have been friends for a long time.
What were the arguments about, Miss Dressler? Do you remember?
Yeah, about me. You see, Max brought me out here, and I suppose at first he thought he owned me. He didn't think I should go out with any other men but him. Max is stubborn sometimes. Well, so am I. I like Wilfred, so I went out with him. I went out with Max, too.
Well, these arguments they had about you, would you say that they were pretty mad at each other, Max and this Mr. Wilfred?
Well, only last week. Max was very angry with Joe, but I think he got over it. Could we talk together later? It's almost time for me to go on. I've got to get outside.
Oh, sure. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay. We'll wait backstage here for you, Miss Dressler. Is that all right?
Yeah, fine. Oh, that's all right. I still have a few minutes.
Well, how about the last time you were in Wilfred's store, Miss Dressler? Can you remember that?
Not exactly. At least 6 months ago. I hardly ever went to see Joe there.
Did you ever have any occasion to leave any clothing with Wilfred in his store, maybe for cleaning alteration?
No, I never left. Maybe it's possible they could be there.
How do you mean?
Well, I have some nice slips, you know. First I sent them out, but Joe said he knew a very nice French laundry to do them. He'd come to my place, pick them up, and then take them to the laundry. Maybe he could have left them in his shop one day.
Well, would anybody besides yourself have access to the clothes in your apartment? Maybe a roommate?
No, I live by myself. I have the only key to the door except Max Hollins. He's got one. He lives in my apartment house, the upstairs floor. Nobody else has a key.
Did you send any clothing to the French laundry with Mr. Wilfred recently?
Yesterday I did. 2 nice slips of mine. But Joe Wilfred didn't call for them. I sent them over with Max.
How'd that happen?
Max said he might as well take them. He was going down to that neighborhood by the haberdashery.
Oh?
I wanted to see Wilfred anyway. Max said he wanted to fix up their argument.
We continued questioning the Dressler girl after she finished her first act at the theater restaurant. She told us that she hadn't seen Max Hollins since early the day before. She was taken downtown where she gave us a full statement. Further questioning got us the information that the argument between the two men, Joseph Wilfred and Max Hollins, over the affections of Elise Dressler was far from settled at their last meeting. The girl admitted that it was a serious argument and that it ended up in a fist fight between the two men. She said Max Hollins was out of town for the night, but that he'd return early the next evening for work. He was employed as manager of a room service department at a large downtown hotel. 11:30 p.m. Ben and I drove back to the apartment house on North Hudson, and together with the building manager, we checked Max Hollins' apartment. We found nothing. The manager told us Hollins' car was parked in the apartment garage, so we went down and gave it a routine check. Under the front seat, we found a paper bag with a pair of gloves in it. There were bloodstains on both gloves. We dropped them off at the crime lab for examination. At 6 o'clock the following night, Ben and I went to the room service department of the downtown hotel where Hollins was employed.
Sorry, sir, Mr. Hollins is late this evening. He should be here pretty soon.
He notified you he'd be in late?
Well, he called, yes. Probably be here in 10 or 15 minutes. I'm his assistant. Can I help you?
No, it's all right. We'll wait.
All right.
Pardon me. I wonder if we could look at your wristwatch, please.
Well, surely. It's just a few minutes past 8.
No, we just want to look at the watch if we could.
Oh, sure, here.
Could you take it off? I'd like to look at the back of it if it's all right.
Sure, that's all right. Here. Nice looking, isn't it? Just got it yesterday.
That's so.
Same engraving. Agnes to Joseph.
Where'd you get this watch, sir?
Why, what's the matter?
Where'd you get it?
Max Hollins. He sold it to me.
February 21st, Friday, 6:30 p.m. We called the office and notified them that we'd located the wristwatch taken from the body of the murder victim, Joseph Wilfred. A stakeout was placed on the North Hudson Street apartment house. Ben and I stayed on at the hotel waiting the return of the murder suspect, Max Hollins. We talked to his assistant and found out that Hollins had a room in the hotel where he could sleep whenever he was called on to work late at night. 6:55 p.m. We called the office back and asked for a couple of men to be sent over to check the suspect's room. A few minutes later, Hollins himself showed up for work. Apparently, he'd been doing some drinking. Ben and I questioned him at his desk to stall for time until the men from the office could get to the hotel and make a thorough check of the suspect's room. Hollins was kept busy on the phone taking room service orders from the hotel guests. In between calls, we talked to him.
I left Elise in the apartment, and then I took the few pieces of laundry she had and dropped them off at Wilfred's store. It was about 6 o'clock Wednesday night.
You mentioned to the Dressler girl you wanted to see Mr. Wilfred. You wanted to patch up an argument you'd had with him?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure he didn't have any bad feelings about it. Really wasn't much of an argument.
How long did you stay at Wilfred's store, Mr. Hollins? Do you remember that?
20 minutes, maybe a half hour. We talked, and we had a glass of wine in the back room. No, it was upstairs. We drank the wine, and everything was all right. I guess it was about 6:30 when I left the store. He was all right then.
Well, did anybody come in the store while you were there?
No, there was nobody.
How about Mrs. Wilfred? Was she in the store at all during the time you were there on Wednesday?
No, he said she was gone for the day. She'd be back later on. We finished our talk, then I left. It was the last time I saw Joseph. It was a terrible thing for somebody to kill him. Excuse me again, please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Room service, may I help you, please? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, could I suggest the Palace Court salad? Very nice, yes. Heart of artichokes filled with fresh crab meat, a Thousand Island dressing garnished with slices of avocado. All right. 2 orders. Some consomme? All right. French rolls, coffee, and brandy. 8:13. Yes, sir, right away. Fred, this order for 8:13.
Yes, Mr. Hollins?
That's Mr. and Mrs. Morrow, 8:13. Make it quickly, please.
Yes, sir.
One of the best men I have, Fred. We keep a very high standard in our room service. Only the very best. They're all Geneva men.
Yes, sir. Something else we'd like to find out.
21 years ago, I came here to the hotel. It was nothing. They were serving garbage. Bad service. Very bad. I built our staff one by one. I did it. There's our staff list there. Finest waiters in the country. Henry Sanchez, Fred LaSalle, Conrad Lutz, Joe Zwick,
Yes, sir.
and Elmer Creighton. He waited on the president when he came to visit here from Washington. The president thought so much of our service, he wrote a letter to Elmer later on. No argument at all. I have the best men in the country, the best food. 21 years to make it like it is. I did it all myself.
I understand you and Wilfred were old friends, Mr. Hollins. You knew him quite a number of years, is that right?
Most of his life, yes. I knew Joseph in the old country. We came from the same town. Terrible thing that's happened. I always liked Joseph, a good friend.
What about these arguments you had with him lately about the girl, Elise Dressler? They amount to anything?
No, but it showed something typical of Joseph. Maybe it was the business he was in. Dollars. It's all he thought about. The big dollar. He knew he had more money than I did. He thought he could do anything with it.
How do you mean?
About the girl, Elise. I took a visit to the old country 3 years ago, Strasbourg. That's where I learned my trade, from the best maitre d's in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I met Elise on my way back in New York. You can check up on all my background. I worked at the Grand Hotel in Brussels. That's when it was the best. I was at the Carlton in London. Then I went to Venice, the Hotel Danielier. After, I went to the Hotel Majestic in Cannes.
Yes, sir. What would that have to do with Miss Dressler?
Very nice girl. We liked each other. When I came back here, I arranged for her to come out from New York. Took care of everything. I thought I'd like to marry her when she came here.
How about it, Hollins? You want to tell us now?
Sir?
Did you kill Wilford?
Excuse me, please. Room service, may I help you, please? Yes, Mr. Sutter. Dinner for 12 tomorrow night in your suite. Your wife and I made up the menu. Certainly, Mr. Sutter. I'll check it over for you. Let's see. We serve caviar with blini to start with. Then the soup, consommé Magdalene. And with the soup, amontillado. Yes, sir, that's Spanish. Then crab legs, Saint-Denis. Sir? Saint-Denis, that's crab legs rolled in breadcrumbs, fried in butter, served in a terrapin dish with bechamel sauce. After that, the Chateaubriand with truffle sauce, soufflé potatoes, small green peas français, and with that we serve Ponte Cornet 27. Dessert, we shall have peach flambé, coffee, and liqueurs afterward. Yes, sir. Henry Sanchez and Conrad Lutz. They'll serve you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sutter. Good night, sir. Real gentleman, Mr. Sutter. He knows how to give a dinner party. The old school. Not so many of them left now. It's not like it used to be. People aren't the same anymore. Oh, yes, Fred. What is it?
A message for the officers here, Sergeant.
Oh, thank you. Excuse us a minute.
Oh, of course.
What is it?
It's from Forbes. They checked his room in the hotel. They didn't find anything.
Better get him downtown, huh?
Yeah. Hollins, we'll have to ask you to come downtown.
Oh, yes. Get my top coat on here. There. Out this way, Sergeant.
All right.
You park your car in the hotel garage?
No, sir, outside on 10th Street.
You can go out the side door then. This way. It's starting to rain. You both have your top coats?
Yeah. Yes. Well, let's go. We're parked right down this way.
What did Elise say? Elise Dressler.
She said you had a fight with Wilford. You went to see him the same day he was murdered.
Yes. It's terrible. It's too bad.
Might as well tell you, sir. We've got the evidence. Quite a bit of it. All points to you.
Oh? How is that?
Well, the pair of gloves you were wearing, we found them. The wristwatch you took off the body, we found that too.
Yes.
You want to tell us about it?
I didn't use good sense. I didn't know what to do when I went to see him. But I didn't have it in my mind to kill him. God knows I tried to talk to him. I asked him, please, to stay away from Elise. I asked him as a friend.
Yes, sir.
All he said to me was, Max, I give her presents and she likes me. I have the money to give her what she wants, Max. You haven't got the money. That's what he said to me.
You had a fight with him then?
No, there wasn't any fight. I'm not sorry. I killed him, but I'm not sorry.
You want to give us a statement about it downtown?
I suppose. I'm not ashamed of it.
All right, let's go. Down this way.
Any man would have done the same. How could you hear such talk and not kill him?
How about the wristwatch you took off of him, the money from the drawer?
I wanted to hurt him more, even after he was dead, after I beat him and beat him. I knew it would be the worst way to hurt Joseph, to take his money.
Here we are. In the back, Alan.
Yeah. Sergeant.
Yeah.
I've told you now. I killed him. Don't you think I had a right to kill him?
I wouldn't know.
But he was like that. The first time you met Joseph, you would know he was bad. It was better for everybody for him to die. First time you met him, you would know that.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't know, mister.
What?
The only time I met him, he was dead.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 4th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 89, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. Max Hollins was tried and convicted of murder in the first degree. He was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the State Penitentiary, San Quentin. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
The original Dragnet, starring Jack Webb as Sergeant Joe Friday, ran on radio from June 3rd, 1949 to February 26th, 1957, and on television from December 16th, 1951 to August 23rd, 1959, and then from January 12th, 1967 to April 16th, 1970. All those versions ran, of course, on NBC. There were 2 Dragnet feature films, a straight adaptation starring Jack Webb in 1954, and, of course, a favorite of mine, a comedy spoof in 1987. There were also television revivals without Webb in 1989 and 2003. Stay tuned for more classic Dragnet, right here on HOJO Radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. 2 armed bandits invade the home of an elderly couple in your city. The aging husband is tortured unmercifully before he reveals the hiding place of his valuables. The 2 thieves make good their escape. Your job? Get 'em.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Saturday, October 3rd. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Harry Didion, captain of robbery. My name's Friday. It was 11:38 p.m. when I got to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital, room 5, treatment room.
Joe?
Hi, how's it going, Ben?
We're not going to be able to talk to him anymore tonight. Doctor said maybe late tomorrow morning.
How's the old man making out?
He's resting a lot better. Doctor gave him a sedative. Old fella sure had a rough time.
Well, how about since I've been gone? Did he tell you anything else?
No, just kept repeating the same thing. 2 guys forced their way into his house, beat his wife, tortured him, took all their jewelry. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, I put in a call to the office. I got a broadcast out on the information that we have. There's not much to go on.
We should be able to pick up a little something more tomorrow. Doc said it's been a long time since he's seen anything like this, where they worked old man over.
What'd they do to the fellow's hands, anyway? The doctor able to tell?
He thinks they used a hat pin on him, something like that. It's sharp and thin. At least a dozen wounds in both hands. He's pretty badly burned, too.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine somebody that cold-blooded. 71-year-old man, soles of his feet a mass of burns. Wonder his heart stood up through the beating I gave him.
Has he got a weak heart?
He's had a little trouble, yeah. Terrific shock going through something like this at his age.
Well, maybe we better check back at their house, huh? See how the old fellow's wife is doing, huh?
Yeah, right. How's it shape up for you?
Well, there's not an awful lot to go on yet. It wasn't a shot in the dark. I think we can count on that. Whoever the thieves were, they had some kind of an inside tip. The old man and his wife, well, they don't put up much of an appearance. You wouldn't be apt to figure that they had $3,000 or $4,000 in jewelry put away at home, would you?
Maybe his wife might have some ideas. Sure is a lousy shame. Yeah, you might halfway understand it. They just held him up, but working him over the way they did.
There was no sense to it at all.
Trying to show off what a couple of rough bums they are. Maybe that's it.
Well, then let's do them a favor. Let's show them what it costs. Ben and I got in the car and drove back to the Westlake Park area to the home of the robbery victim, 71-year-old Wendell McClung, and his wife, Catherine McClung. It was a one-story wooden frame building, gray shingled, a typical modest 4-room bungalow. The men from Unit 31R who'd answered the robbery call were still there, standing by. Another pair of men from robbery detail, Powers and Gonzalez, were checking the neighborhood for possible leads on the suspects. Inside the house, Ben and I found Mrs. McClung propped up in an easy chair in the living room. She was a small, chubby woman, gray-haired, looked to be in her 50s. We assured her husband's condition wasn't critical. Outside of a small bruise on her forehead and a case of nervous upset, she seemed to be all right. In recounting the story of the holdup, Mrs. McClung told us the 2 bandits rang the front doorbell and forced their way into the house at gunpoint shortly before 8 o'clock that night.
How about the color of their hair, ma'am? Their weight and the height?
No, I hardly saw a thing. Just that one look at them when they first pushed their way in.
Well, how was that, baby? Blindfold you?
Guess they might just as well have. You see, when they started to hit Wendell, my husband, Wendell, knock him down, I went after them, and one of them slapped me right across my face and knocked my glasses off.
I see.
I reached out to find them, but before I did, I guess one of those gangsters stepped on them. $35 glasses, broke both of the lenses, just ruined the frames. Now, look at that. Of course, I can't see a thing without them. That's why I say it might as well have been blindfolded.
And you didn't have a chance to notice what kind of clothes they had on and what they looked like at all?
Well, they weren't shabby, I know that. Pretty well dressed, if memory serves. Both of them in dark suits. If only they wouldn't have broken my glasses.
How about their voices, Miss McClung? Anything unusual about the way they talked? Anything that they might have said? Miss McClung?
No, I was just thinking. One's name was Sam, I remember that. The other one had sort of an accent of some kind, maybe from the Midwest or maybe Texas, one of those funny people.
Funny people? How do you mean, ma'am?
Well, you know, something like a cowboy or a farmer, that funny kind of talk.
I see.
Well, I guess I really should be inside fixing you men a cup of tea. Maybe if you'd just help me up
That's
here.
all right, ma'am. You just sit there.
When my sister Dolly gets here, it shouldn't be too long. I'll have her fix something.
There's no need to bother, ma'am. We'd like to have you tell us this if you can. Did your husband do anything at all to provoke the two men? I mean, did he call out for help or try to get to a phone, anything like that?
It was the jewelry we had, Wendell and I, just those few pieces. The two men seemed to know all about it, just as if they had a list of the things.
That's all.
Yes. When they first came in, they took my engagement ring and old brooch that belonged to my mother I was wearing. Then they got Wendell in that chair over there and tried to make him tell where our other things were.
Well, now, is it pretty common knowledge around the neighborhood here that you and your husband own expensive jewelry, ma'am?
No, I don't think so. What the men seemed most interested in was Wendell's ring, his diamond signet ring. It was a beautiful thing, 4 carat.
Yes, ma'am. We've got a description on that. That was when they tried to force your husband to tell them where it was hidden, is that right?
I never thought anybody'd be that cruel, officer. Downright cruel. They burned his hands and his feet, kept hitting him in the face with their fists. It was just terrible. Poor Wendell. He finally had to tell them.
I see.
They went and found the things, and then they came back in here and ripped out the phone. Warned us not to move.
Mm-hmm.
And then they left. I just broke down and cried, officer. To see poor Wendell there, the way they abused him.
Yes, ma'am, we understand.
You're sure he's going to be all right? What did the doctor say?
Well, he said there's no danger, ma'am. Mr. McClung's resting comfortably now.
Well, that must be my sister
You want to
Dolly
stay
now.
right here with Ms. McClung, Ben? I'll get that.
Yeah, right.
Joe?
Hi, Jess. You and Powers do any good?
I've been checking through the neighborhood 3-4 blocks around. Not an awful lot. A lot of people know the McClungs. Few of them know about their having jewelry. None of them saw anything unusual going on tonight.
The thieves used a car. We know that. Didn't anybody at all spot it?
I'm not sure, but there's one possibility. Some of the neighbors said a young kid was peddling magazines down this block tonight, just about the same time as the robbery. He might have spotted
Well, that's
something.
fine. Where is the boy? Where does he live?
Well, that's what we asked the neighbors.
Yeah?
Nobody knows.
A supplementary broadcast and an APB was gotten out containing what description we had on the two hold-up men, plus descriptions of each article of jewelry taken from Mr. and Mrs. McClung. The following morning, along with Jess Gonzalez and Johnny Powers, we continued canvassing the immediate neighborhood of the holdup. The only thing we got was a fair description of the boy who'd been selling magazines the night before in the vicinity of the McClung house, and also the names of the magazines he was peddling. Monday morning, 9 a.m., we got in touch with the local distributor for the publications, got a list of 5 boys who sold for them in that general area, and started checking them out. Third on the list was a Bill Newsom, a sophomore student at a nearby parochial high school. He lived a half a dozen blocks from the McClungs. We checked at his house, but his mother told us he wasn't at home.
I'm sure Billy won't be long.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right in here, officer.
Just go ahead.
Well, thank you. Sit down, won't you?
Thank you very much.
It must be him now. Billy, in here.
Yeah, Ma.
Come in here, Bill. 2 police officers to see you.
Huh?
Bill, this is Sergeant Friday and Sergeant Romero, my son Bill.
How you
doing?
Would you excuse me? I'm going to have to start fixing dinner. You go right ahead and have your talk with Bill. I'll be out in the kitchen.
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much.
You speak right up now, Bill. Try and help the officers all you can.
How can I help you? What's it all about?
We understand you have a magazine route in the neighborhood, Bill. Your mother tells us you were out selling this last Saturday night.
Yes, sir, that's right. Thursdays and Saturdays, they're my regular nights.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really sell, though.
How do you mean, son?
Well, you see, I line up all my customers ahead of time. I got a regular list of people they buy from me every week. I don't do any door-to-door selling. That way it's not much good.
I see. Do you have a regular customer on your list by the name of McClung, Bill? That's M-C-C-L-U-N-G.
Yeah, Mr. McClung. Once a month, he takes a gardening magazine. Comes out the last weekend every month.
Were you over near the McClung's place Saturday night? You remember?
Yeah, I was. I went right by it. I've got customers all along that block there. Say, this wouldn't be about that robbery.
That's right, Bill. You heard about it?
After church Sunday, a couple of kids who go to the same school I do, they live right around the McClungs. They heard about it.
What time was it when you went by there Saturday night, you remember?
Oh, about a couple of minutes after 9, I guess. Maybe a quarter after. When I heard about the robbery on Sunday, I thought maybe I ought to tell somebody about it. I wasn't sure about it, though. You know, I didn't want to be a pest.
What do you mean, son? You weren't sure about what?
This dark blue sedan I saw parked on the street there, just a couple of houses down from the McClung's place. The reason I even noticed it was because it was a new car, almost a brand new car, but it looked like the license plates on it were kind of old.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Well, I delivered some magazines to Mrs. Brubaker, and I got my money for them. And then coming down the stairs, I saw these two men. I'm not sure they came out of Mr. McClung's house. It was dark, you know, but I thought that's where they came from. Anyway, they went down the street, and got in the car, and took off. Seemed to be in a hurry.
Well, what did the two men look like, Bill? Do you have any idea?
No, I didn't see them too well. Wasn't too close to them. I was about from, here to across the street from them.
How about their clothes? You notice them at all?
Yeah, they had suits on, dark suits, I know that.
How would you describe their build, son? Medium, tall, fat, skinny? What would you say?
Why, I think I'd say medium. Yeah, both of them medium.
Now, about that car, Bill. You said it was a dark blue sedan, new model, and the license plates look kind of old. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's how I first noticed it parked down by the restaurant.
How's that?
About 7:15 when I started my route down on South Benson, I saw the same car parked outside the restaurant down there. Forget the name of the place now. It just opened about a month ago.
You sure it was the same car?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's why I noticed it again when I saw it up by McClung's place. I thought it looked kind of terrible. Brand new car like that with old license plates.
By any chance, son, do you remember the license number on those plates?
No, sir, I didn't notice it at all. I'll tell you what, though.
Yeah?
If I see that car again, I'll be sure and get the number for you.
Before we left the home of 16-year-old Bill Newsom, we got a complete description of the car which he'd seen parked near the McClung's home on the night of the robbery. He told us it was a 1950 Hudson, four-door sedan, dark blue, white sidewall tires. We relayed the information downtown to robbery detail. After we left the boy's house, we drove to the vicinity of the restaurant on South Benson, where the Newsom boy had first spotted the Hudson sedan. After making the rounds of several bars and coffee counters in the area, we started checking at the restaurant. It was newly opened, just as the boy had described it, full of glass brick and fancy modern stonework. The main bar was situated just off the lobby, set apart from the main dining room. We interviewed the head bartender, and he thought he remembered serving two customers, answering the general description of the hold-up men on the previous Saturday night.
Not a bad-looking pair. They're in a little early, around 7:15, 7:30. They seem to be all right.
Do you remember what they looked like at all?
No, I didn't notice them that much, officer.
Can you give us some general idea?
They're on the young side, I guess. Not more than 28, 30. One of them talked like a Midwesterner, I think. You know, maybe Arkansas, Texas, someplace like that.
Well, could you give us any idea what they were wearing? Would you remember
that? Both had suits on, dark suits. One had on a gray hat, and that's about all I remember. The reason I can place them at all is because Saturday was a pretty slow night at the bar. There's a new place here, you know. It takes a little time to cultivate a trade.
Well, did these two men stop for dinner here? Do you remember that?
No. They sat right here at the bar and had a couple of beers, and then they left. No dinner.
Did you wait on them, sir?
Yes, sir, I did. I served them both a bottle of beer, imported Dutch beer.
Do you serve quite a bit of that imported beer, do you?
No, not here, no. It's mostly cocktail trade. These two fellows are the only ones I remember asking for it.
Well, do you remember if the two men handled the beer bottles at all?
If they handled them?
Well, I mean, did you pour it?
I filled up their glasses and set the bottle down. I guess they did handle them. They emptied the bottle.
I see.
They'd almost have to, wouldn't they?
Would you still have those two bottles on hand?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess I would. They don't pick up the empties till sometime around the middle of the week.
We'd like to take a look at them if you don't mind.
Oh, sure thing. You guys just want to follow me down the bar here? It's in the storeroom just in back.
All right, let's go.
It's right back here, officer.
Fine.
Let's see. Yeah, they're right over here. There you go. Holland label. Only ones in the whole case. The same two I served those fellas.
Yeah, I see.
What do you think? Fingerprints?
Maybe.
And as soon as you get the fingerprints, you can pick them up, can't you?
Yeah, when we find the men they belong to.
Monday, 6 p.m. We called Latent Fingerprints, and they came out to check the evidence. First, they obtained a set of the bartender's fingerprints to serve as a basis for comparison. Then they dusted each of the empty beer bottles carefully. After the various sets of prints were lifted off the bottles, the men went back to the office to run the sets through, classify their findings, and then turn them over to R&I for further checking. While they worked on it, Ben and I ducked out and had a sandwich and a bowl of soup for dinner. 7:25 p.m. We got back to the city hall.
I sure am getting tired of the kind of food that guy serves, Joe. It seems to get worse every time I go in there.
Yeah, wasn't very good, was it?
I'm willing to bet I know his formula for the soup. 2 gallons of hot water and 1 bouillon cube. Well, I've gone and done it before. I may still do it again.
What's that?
Bring my dinner from home in a paper sack. Pack a thermos full of hot coffee. Be a better deal than across the street.
I don't know about that. You remember the last time you had your wife fix you up a thermos full of coffee?
Yeah, I almost forgot. Wasn't any better than the stuff across the street.
Hi. Where you two been?
Hi, Jess. Getting something to eat?
Leighton Prince called just a minute ago. Told him I'd give you the message.
What's that?
Well, the prints they lifted off those beer bottles, checked them through the record bureau.
Yeah.
Found 2 sets. They made both of them.
October 5th, Saturday, 7:40 p.m. The 2 sets of fingerprints which had been lifted from the empty beer bottles were checked through R&I and identified as those belonging to 2 known criminals. The first was Henry Vincent Moss, WMA, 29 years old. He'd served 2 terms in the county jail for burglary and grand theft auto, and 1 term in San Quentin for robbery. The second was Ernest Robert Windsor, WMA, 28 years old. His home was listed as Little Rock, Arkansas, where he'd twice been convicted on charges of first-degree burglary and served time at the Arkansas State Penitentiary. We pulled the packages on both of the men, checked the last known addresses, but failed to locate either of them. To double-check their identification, we showed mugshots of Windsor and Moss to the robbery and torture victims, Mr. and Mrs. McClung. They gave positive identification of both men. So did the bartender at the restaurant where they'd stopped for the beer. We got out a broadcast and an all-points bulletin on them immediately. We began the routine legwork, checking with all the friends, relatives, and associates who were listed on the mama sheet in each suspect's package. As usual, it was a long, monotonous haul. One of the persons listed as fairly close to Ernest Windsor was an aunt of his, a Mrs. Marie Rolfe, whom we located at her home in the Echo Park district.
No, I haven't seen Ernest in almost a year, Sergeant. What is it you want him for?
I'd like to talk to you about it a few minutes, Mrs. Rolfe, if you don't mind.
I don't know how I can help you. You can come in for a minute if you want. I've got to go out and do some errands pretty soon, though.
It's all right, ma'am. Thank you.
Right in here. Sit down if you want.
Thank you very much.
Just got finished taking care of my little children here, giving them nice, clean cages.
Good singers. They all canaries, ma'am?
Oh, yes. Oscar and Ethel, that's these 2 here. They're both genuine rollers. Their grandfolks came from Germany. Beautiful singers. Wonderful company.
Yes, ma'am.
My others are pretty, too. They're only choppers, though.
Ma'am?
Choppers. They're different than rollers. They sing much louder. Maybe not as nicely, but I don't like to play favorites. I like all of them. You have birds, Sergeant?
No, ma'am.
You should. I think everybody should have a canary in the house. Cheerful, you know. Wonderful company. Don't know what I'd do without mine.
About your nephew, Ernest, Ms. Rolfe. Have you any idea at all how we could contact him?
As I say, it's been almost a year since I last heard from him. What would this be about, Sergeant?
Just a routine investigation, ma'am. We understand that you're quite close with your nephew, that he lived with you for a time.
Yes, that's right, he did. When you come right down to it, Ernie's a good boy. He kept bad company, that's what I always said. Got him in trouble 2 or 3 times. I suppose you know that.
You live alone here in the house, do you, Ms. Rolfe?
Yes, that's right, Sergeant. See, I'm a widow. Husband's gone a good many years now.
You don't take in boarders or anyone like that, do
Oh,
you?
no. Just me and my pets here. They're company enough.
I wonder if you'd explain that laundry piled up in the bed there in the next room, ma'am.
What's that?
The men's shirts, stockings, the underwear, they're right there in the bed there.
Well, I usually try to keep things in better order than that. It's just some laundry I do, Sergeant. Little odd jobs for some of the bachelor men in the neighborhood. I do it as a favor for them.
You're sure about that, Miss Rolfe? Ma'am?
What do you want Ernest for? Why do you have to chase after him all the time? Persecute him?
We're not persecuting him.
Ever since he's come here from Arkansas, it's been nothing but police chasing after him. Can't you give Ernie a chance? All he wants is a chance. He told me so himself.
We've checked through his record, Ms. Rolfe. He's had all the chances in the world, and nobody's persecuting him.
Then why are you chasing him again? Hunting him down? Why don't you leave him alone for a spell? Give him a chance to get a job, do something. Why are you chasing him?
Well, this is a robbery charge, Ms. Rolfe. He's been positively identified. He and Henry Moss forced their way into an old couple's home a few weeks back. They tortured the old man, and they beat him till he was unconscious. That's what we want Ernie for.
How'd you know it was Ernie? You could have made a mistake.
No mistake, ma'am. The victims identified his picture. There wasn't a doubt in their mind. And where is he?
You sure that's the truth? You sure it's Ernie again?
Yes, ma'am. Again. You can have all the proof you need.
The last time he told me he swore on the memory of his own mother. He swore he wouldn't do anything wrong again. I guess I just don't know, Ernest.
Where is he, ma'am? You want to tell us?
It's the last time, Sergeant. I'm sorry. Ernie's had his last time.
Yes, ma'am.
He's sleeping. The room over the garage. You'll find him there.
Ernest Windsor was apprehended and placed under arrest. His room was searched, as well as the entire home of his aunt, Mrs. Marie Rolfe. We failed to find a trace of any of the jewelry stolen from Mr. and Mrs. McClung. After we made arrangements for a stakeout on the house, Windsor was taken downtown to the interrogation room, where Jess Gonzalez, Ben, and I questioned him for 5 hours. He refused to tell us anything. At a special show-up, he was positively identified as one of the hold-up men by the two victims. Windsor was booked at the main jail on suspicion of 211 PC. The investigation went on. Every possible lead on the other suspect, Henry Moss, was checked out. We got nowhere. It was obvious that either Moss was in possession of all the jewelry stolen from the McClungs, or it had been hidden away someplace, known only to Windsor and Moss. From time to time, we had Windsor taken from his jail cell for questioning. It wasn't hard to tell he was bothered with the possibility that perhaps Moss had run off with the entire loot and was enjoying himself while Windsor spent his time in jail. We worked hard on that particular angle while we questioned him, but Windsor still refused to break, to give us any kind of a lead on Moss. A month passed. Wednesday, November 8th.
Sure working out into a dull routine. A full month. We got exactly what we started with.
Yeah. If we could only get Windsor to break it, it'd sure do a lot toward wrapping this thing up, wouldn't it?
I don't know what he figures he's going to gain, but keep him quiet.
Yeah.
Gonzalez and Johnny Power said they were checking out a tip from some informant this morning. Supposed to know where Henry Moss is.
Wonder if they found any luck. They ought to be back by now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, Jess.
Oh, hi.
How about it? Did you do any good this morning?
Oh, not a bit. Informant didn't even show up. Johnny's going to meet him this afternoon. Doesn't look to be very much. How about you fellas?
The same, Jess. We're going as slow as you are.
I get it. Robbery, Friday. Yeah, George. Uh-huh. 3rd and Main? You sure, huh? Right, yeah, right away. Well, maybe we got a break.
What is it?
Henry Moss. He tried to hock a ring at a pawn shop, 3rd and Main, about 20 minutes ago.
You make it?
Well, the pawnbroker stalled him. He didn't know for sure that the guy was hot.
Well, how's it stand?
Moss said he'd come back to close the deal.
When?
Half an hour. 11:55 a.m. A special detail of men, including Gonzalez and Powers, Ben and myself, were sent to cover the pawn shop near 3rd and Main. Gonzalez and Powers staked out in stores adjoining the place. Ben and I were stationed inside the pawn shop. Another team of men covered the rear exit. We waited. The suspect, Henry Moss, failed to show at the appointed time. We kept waiting. 1 p.m., 1:30. No sign of him. At 1:45 p.m., a young-looking, dark-haired man in a neat gray suit entered the shop and approached the manager at the rear counter. There wasn't any mistaking him. Henry Moss. He surrendered himself without even protesting. We took him to the city hall, to the interrogation room, where we started to question him. Meantime, Gonzalez and Powers located the apartment where the suspect had been staying. His rooms and personal belongings were searched, and every piece of the missing jewelry recovered. Surprisingly enough, in contrast to his partner, Ernie Windsor, Moss was cooperative, even obliging. We had a stenographer take his full statement, and then we got ready to move him over to the main jail for booking.
Just a couple of questions before we leave, Moss.
Sure, Sergeant, go ahead.
We've had you in here before. How come all the cooperation this time?
Why not? I had it figured before time. If you got me, you'd have everything you need on me. Wouldn't do much good putting in a beef, would it?
Whose idea was it to start with, Moss? The hold-up deal. Yours, or was it Windsor's?
Both of us, I guess. I didn't want to get rough with the old man. I mean, the way Ernie did. That part I didn't like. All I wanted was the loot. Ernie just lost his head. Too bad.
All right, you ready to go?
Anytime, Sergeant. Hey, I wonder if I could ask a favor.
What's that?
Well, it's going to get a little tough in there in that jail. Wonder if we couldn't stop for a good steak and some French fries first, huh? Maybe some good restaurant around here?
No, it won't work, Moss.
You know I wouldn't try anything.
You put your order in a long time ago, mister.
What do you mean?
When you worked over that old couple.
Yeah?
That's when you ordered jail food.
The story story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On March 2nd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. Ernest Windsor and Henry Moss were tried and convicted on one count of first-degree robbery and one count of assault with intent to do great bodily harm. Both men are now serving their terms in the state penitentiary. First-degree robbery is punishable by imprisonment for no less than 1 nor more. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Keep it tuned right here to HOJO Radio for more classic old-time radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a homicide detail. An attractive blonde secretary is found beaten to death in a downtown office building. You've only one lead to start with, a length of steel pipe wrapped in heavy paper. There's no trace of the killer. Your job? Get him.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, September 28th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from the crime lab, and it was 11:48 p.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide. Romero? Ben? Hey, Romero?
Not here. You, Friday?
Oh, yeah. Lopey, how are you? You seen Romero around the last half hour? Supposed to meet him here.
Well, he's come and gone. Still around the building, though. Got a call.
What was it about, do you know?
Yeah, I was on that killing tonight. Call came from one of the cruiser cars checking the neighborhood down where it happened.
Yeah? Did they find something?
Picked up a guy about 3 blocks from the murder scene, acting suspicious. Men in the cruiser car figured maybe you'd want to talk to him.
They're bringing the man in now?
Yeah, Yeah, you been over checking with the crime lab?
Yeah, there's not much. The murder weapon's about all we got so far. It's a piece of pipe with heavy manila paper wrapped around it.
Uh-huh. Light prints do any good?
Yeah, they lifted a lot of fingerprints. They all belong to the victim. None of them are foreign.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you got a toothpick, Joe? And corn on the cob from there.
No, I haven't. Why don't you try the top drawer over there in Mike Pena's desk? He usually has
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I understand there wasn't much to look at, the killing, I mean.
It was a pretty vicious thing. The girl took a terrible beating.
Oh. Who found the body?
One of the scrub women in the building. It was an office up on the 9th floor, import-export company. Victim was a secretary there. She's a pretty girl.
Mm-hmm. She dead long?
Must have happened around 7 o'clock tonight. That's my figure. It's just a guess.
Uh-huh. What's the girl's name? Been identified yet?
Yeah, Adele Pryor. Her boss is out of town. She was working in the office alone. There was no one suspicious seen entering or leaving the office around the time of the murder. There's no one we know of, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of checking. Yeah. Any idea what the motive could have been?
Well, it wasn't robbery. They didn't keep any cash in the office. As far as we know, the girl wasn't carrying much money. We'll start making the rounds in the morning, checking with her friends, see what we can pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Friday, you around?
Yeah, I'm right here. Back here, Ben.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hi.
Hi. They bring the guy in, Ben?
Mm-hmm. Lopey brief you about it, Joe?
Yeah, a cruiser car picked up a suspicious-looking guy near the murder scene. Is that about the size of it?
A little more than that. They found the man beating his head against a brick wall in a back alley about 2 blocks from the office building where we found the body.
Uh-huh.
Guy'd been drinking heavily, and when they picked him up, he was pretty far gone. Kept mumbling something about how he didn't deserve to live, how he's a murderer, killer. Not too coherent.
Mm-hmm. They asked him about the dead girl, Adele Pryor?
Yeah, but the stuff he said didn't make much sense. He sobered up a little since they picked him up. We might as well see what we can get out of him before we book him in, huh? Got him in the interrogation room now.
Okay. Give it a try, anyway. Any calls come in, you know where to find us, Lopey.
Yeah, sure. Right, Joe.
Thanks a lot.
Did you check with the crime lab, Joe?
Yeah, about all we're sure of is the murder weapon. No prints, no other physical evidence.
Maybe it won't matter. Got half an idea we might have the killer now.
The guy they picked up? How'd he figure?
Just a hunch. I don't think he's as drunk as he pretends.
Well, we're going to have to place him a lot closer to the murder scene than 2 blocks away. You can't prove a thing the way it stands.
I was downstairs when they brought the man in. I talked to him while they were bringing up the interrogation room.
Yeah.
Told me he knows the dead girl.
All right.
Said he was with her an hour before she died.
Shortly before 8 o'clock that night, a scrub woman in a downtown office building near the intersection of 8th and South Grand Avenue entered an office on the 9th floor of the building to do her usual cleaning chores. Lying face down behind a desk in the small office, she found the body of 28-year-old Secretary Adele Pryor, beaten to death. When we arrived at the scene, routine investigation began, but almost immediately we found ourselves down a blind alley. Repeated questioning of all persons in or about the office building failed to turn up anything in the way of leads. Thorough investigation of the murder scene by the crime lab crew met with the same kind of luck. They knew they had the murder weapon. That was all. The deputy coroner arrived and removed the body to the morgue for posting. At 10 o'clock that night, 3 hours after the approximate time of the Pryor girl's death, officers in a cruiser car patrolling the area found a drunken man butting his head against a cement wall and muttering incoherently about a murder. He was picked up and taken immediately to the interrogation room where Ben and I questioned him. We'd talked to him a full hour before he began to make sense. He gave his name as Robert French, age 34, an unemployed electrical engineer. While we questioned him, 2 men from homicide were sent to check the hotel room where French told us he was staying.
I don't know. I guess I had 3 or 4 drinks at Dusty's place. Then I went down the street to the Blue Canary, had some more drinks there. I don't remember what happened after that. I wasn't feeling so good.
You say you were drinking at Dusty's place around 7 p.m., is that right, French?
Suppose so. I wasn't watching the clock. I guess it was around 7.
Well, did you talk to anybody while you were in the bar?
No, just the bartender. His name's Sarge. I don't know his last name. He'll tell you I was there.
What time was it when you got to Dusty's place, French?
I couldn't tell you for sure. About 6:30 maybe. Sarge could probably tell you, the bartender.
When you were coming up in the elevator, you told us you knew Adele Pryor.
Yeah, I knew her. Used to work for her husband. Or ex-husband, I mean. They've been divorced 7, 8 years now.
Mm-hmm. You said you saw Adele Pryor in her office late this afternoon, French. What was the reason for the visit?
I borrowed a couple of dollars from her. She was always pretty good that way. Nice kid. Don't know why anybody'd want to kill her like that.
Well, how about the show that you were putting on out in the street tonight, French? Beating your head against that wall? What was that all about?
Drunk. Really drunk. Felt so low I wanted to kill myself. Just lay down and die.
Well, how's that? You remorseful? Felt sorry for something you'd done?
I don't know. I don't think of any special reason for it when I get that way. I just keep thinking I want to die.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got the nerve for it, though. I know that. Like my old man always used to tell me, I haven't got the nerve to do anything right. Just wasn't born that way. I guess that's it.
Do you use narcotics, French?
No, I haven't even got the nerve for that. Booze, that's all. It's good enough for me. Say, you think we could go out for a cup of coffee? Maybe I could use it.
We'll have some brought up, huh? Ben, do you mind going down the hall and check with Lopey? Ask him to have some coffee brought up, huh?
Yeah, okay.
And see if those 2 men have checked back in yet, will you?
Right.
Appreciate it, Sergeant. Sure gonna be mean when all this booze wears off.
I'd like to ask you a little more about the Pryor girl, French. Just how well did you know her?
Not too well. Guess I used to see her maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm. Up there at her office?
Yeah, that's right. She was a nice girl. Whenever I was broke, I could always depend on her for a couple of bucks. I liked her. She was a nice person.
Did you ever go out with her?
No, never did. No romance stuff. I didn't like her that way. She was just a good person. We got along okay.
Mm-hmm. You want a cigarette?
No thanks. Mm-hmm. It's full of cotton already.
Mm-hmm. How about this business of Adele Pryor lending you money? She think quite a bit of you?
Oh, I did her a couple of favors once. When I was working for her husband, she was still married to him. She was going out with a guy she liked on the side. She was out with this guy once, and I saw them together. She asked me not to say anything, so I didn't. Before she got a divorce, I used to cover up for her all the time. She never forgot it, I guess.
Uh-huh. How about when you saw her in her office tonight, French? How'd she seem? All right to you?
Yeah, same as ever. I asked her if she could lend me a $5, and she did. I left. It was about 6:15, I guess.
There anyone else in the office when you left?
Yeah. There was a guy waiting in the little reception room there. Didn't know who he was.
You remember what he looked like?
Well, tall fella, about my size, my age.
Uh-huh.
Joe, can I see you a minute?
Yeah.
Dorothy and Brian have checked in and just got back from going over French's hotel room.
They find anything?
White shirt, a pair of brown shoes, pair of dark trousers.
What about them?
Bloodstains on all of them.
The stained pieces of clothing found in the suspect's hotel room were delivered to Lieutenant Lee Jones at the crime lab for detailed examination. Coffee was brought in, and Ben and I continued to question French until about 4 a.m. He denied any knowledge or complicity in the killing of 28-year-old Adele Pryor. He told us the blood-stained clothing in his hotel room was the result of an accident he'd been in 2 weeks before when he'd been drinking heavily. He was checked through R&I while we talked to him, but he had no previous criminal record. French kept insisting that we check on the tall, dark-haired man who'd been waiting in the reception room of the Pryor girl's office the night before when French left her. We gave the description of the suspect, along with the M.O., to the stats office, requesting them to furnish us with any information regarding any assaults or any solved or unsolved murder. At 4:15 a.m., we booked in Robert French at the main jail on suspicion of 187 PC, murder. The next morning at 10 a.m., the legwork began. Lopez and Doherty from Homicide started checking on the background and alibi of the suspect, Robert French. It didn't hold much water. None of the people at either of the bars where French said he'd been drinking at the time of the murder could definitely vouch for his presence, but they all volunteered the information that no matter how much he drank, French was never violent toward other people, only himself. Lopez and Doherty continued investigating the suspect while Ben and I checked on the background of the victim, Adele Pryor. At 8:25 p.m., we got back to the office.
Hi. Been waiting for you two.
Loping, you and Doherty do any good?
Nothing to celebrate over. Long day, tired feet.
What'd you find out, Lopey? Anything new at all?
Oh, maybe French is our man. Can't prove it by me. Every place we checked, everybody we talked to, same answer.
Yeah?
He's a smart guy with a good education. He's on the bottle and he's out of work. Everybody seems to like him. He gets drunk, but he never bothers anybody. That's about the worst anybody can say about him. Drinks too much.
Well, how about his being friends with the dead girl? Did you dig up anything there?
Yeah, it only proves he was telling you the truth, though. As far as we could find out, there was nothing going between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we got only verifies what he told you. He had no interest in the girl except a bar offer when he was broke.
You got in touch with the girl's ex-husband, did you?
Yeah, he couldn't add anything. All clear there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, by the way, here, Lee Jones called from the crime lab just before you came in.
What did he have, Lopey?
Finished testing the blood stains on those clothes they found in French's hotel room. None of the stains on them match the victim's blood type. It's another dead end.
Yeah, it's sure hard to figure. You got anything else, Lopey?
Oh, yeah.
You're good me, Stott.
A report for you from the stats office.
Oh, thank you.
He asked to make a run for you last night, didn't
Yeah, I did.
What's it look like?
Just a minute. Yeah, well, it doesn't help much. Looks like more legwork.
What's that, Joe?
Well, French told us when he left Adele Pryor last night, there was a man in the reception room waiting to see her. He gave us the guy's description, and the stats office made a run on it for us. This is the best one they got.
Yeah?
The guy's name is William Tanner, WMA, 33 years old, 6'1", 195 pounds, dark hair, dark complexion.
Fits the description French gave us of the guy.
And the rest of it's a lot closer to home.
How do you mean?
William Tanner was a prominent suspect in the Donaldson murder last September. Testimony of friends and relatives subsequently cleared him. Donaldson's murder is still unsolved.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the point?
Well, the same thing that killed Donaldson killed Adele Pryor.
What do you mean?
Piece of steel pipe wrapped in paper. To the working detective assigned to examine a criminal case, the element of coincidence, when it occurs, generally serves to complicate any investigation. Toward the solution of the crime, coincidence may mean a lot or it may mean nothing. In any event, it can't be dismissed. This time we had two examples of coincidence to deal with. A girl had been beaten to death in an office building. Within 2 blocks of the murder scene, we found a man fairly well acquainted with the victim who admitted seeing the girl within an hour of her death. Primary investigation uncovered some facts which tended to incriminate the man, some facts which tended to prove him innocent. Was his presence in the immediate neighborhood of the killing only coincidental, or was he there at the particular time for the purpose of murder? We didn't know. By the same token, a man by the name of William Tanner was suspected 1 year before of beating an elderly woman to death with an identical murder weapon, a length of steel pipe wrapped in paper. This same person, William Tanner, matched the description of a man reportedly seen entering Adele Pryor's office shortly before she was murdered. Tanner also had a criminal record of 1 conviction for assault. Maybe it was a lead, maybe it was nothing. It had to be checked out. We showed Tanner's mugshot to our first murder suspect, Robert French, but he failed to identify it. We went to William Tanner's last known address, but he'd moved. We checked with his next of kin, his brother, Martin Tanner. He was with the city fire department. We found him on duty at the neighborhood fire station on Norwich Avenue.
No, I'm afraid not, Sergeant. I haven't seen my brother Bill in 3 weeks now. If he's not at his apartment, I couldn't tell you where to find him.
We tried the last address we had on him. He wasn't there. 8625 Norman Road.
Oh, no. He moved out of there 6-7 months ago. I got his new address in my locker. I can give it to you if you want.
We'd appreciate it, yeah.
Okay, back this way and then upstairs.
All right.
What's it about, Sergeant? My brother in some kind of trouble again, I guess, huh?
Oh, it's just a routine check.
You sound like you almost expect your brother to be in trouble, Tanner.
To tell you the truth, I guess I do. I don't know what... Excuse me a minute. No, it's not our call.
Well, how would you mean that, Tanner? What's happened to your brother?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know. Bill and I used to live together with our mother. Ma died about 2 years ago. I don't think Bill ever really got over it. He was a lot closer to Ma than I was.
I see.
After she died, he drank quite a bit for a while, then he tried women, lots of them. After that, he turned to religion. We thought that'd help. He would have, too. Except that he's an odd guy. He even finds ways of distorting the Bible. I guess he's still pretty religious. He goes to all the revivals, the tent meetings, all that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Do you know any of his women friends?
Yeah, I do. 2 or 3 of them.
How about the name Adele Pryor? Does that mean anything to you?
Would she be kind of a pretty girl, blonde hair, nice clothes?
Yeah, that's right.
Have you met her, Tanner?
Yeah, Bill had me meet her once. He seemed to like her quite a bit. Why?
Was he pretty serious about her, or would you know that?
Yeah, he was serious about her, all right. He told me that. I don't think it worked both ways, though. Looked to me like she was playing the field. Bill took it way too serious.
How do you mean?
Well, they went together steady for a while, and then they broke it up. She did, I mean.
Mm-hmm. How'd your brother take that?
Not so good. I remember the night about a month ago. Never saw Bill like that before. Real bad shape. He wasn't drinking either.
Is that so?
Never saw Bill like that in my life.
Like what, Tanner?
Off his head. He could have gone out and killed the girl.
Before we left the fire station, we got William Tanner's new address from his brother, Martin. It was the same address as that of the murdered girl, Adele Pryor, an apartment house close by the intersection of Wilshire and La Brea. Tanner's apartment was on the 3rd floor, just down the hall from the Pryor girl's apartment. But Tanner wasn't there. The apartment manager told us he'd moved out the night before without leaving a forwarding address. Ben put in a call to the suspect's place of business, an industrial chemical company, where Tanner was employed as assistant office manager.
What was the reason, sir? Oh, I see, uh-huh. Yeah, well, all right, thanks very much. We'll be checking with you later. Bye.
What'd they say?
Tanner left yesterday, quit without giving any notice. Told him he had a better job lined up.
Where?
South America.
Saturday, October 1st, 8 a.m. We got out a broadcast and an APB on murder suspect William Tanner. We checked with the local U.S. State Department office, but they had no record of granting a passport recently to a William Tanner to travel in a South American country. We talked to the various consulates in the city representing South American nations, but none of them had issued a visa to a William Tanner recently or anyone answering his description. Together with Brian and Lopez from Homicide, Ben and I continued the search for the missing suspect. The deeper we checked into his background, the more we became convinced that mentally, Tanner was far from normal. Most of the people who knew the suspect told us the same story his brother had given us. In recent months, Tanner had taken strongly to religion. He attended revival meetings and similar religious exercises every night in the week. He talked nothing but repentance. He quoted the scriptures constantly. He adopted the habit of carrying a Bible with him wherever he went, reading from it aloud every chance he got. He kept urging his friends to join him in being saved. On Monday, October 3rd, we began a check of the various revival halls. On Wednesday, October 5th, we found him. He was attending a gospel revival in a meeting hall in the south end of the city. He told us he had a room in a small hotel directly above the meeting hall, but he seemed reluctant to take us up there. While Lopez and Brian got a pass key from the manager and went up to check the room, Ben and I questioned Tanner downstairs in the lobby of the meeting hall.
I'm sorry to hear about Adele. What happened to her? It's a terrible thing, isn't it?
Yes, sir. We understand you knew Adele Pryor fairly well, Mr. Tanner. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I liked her quite a bit at one time. We used to see a lot of each other. I was engaged to her, you know.
Well, how is it you never married, Tanner? Did she break off the engagement?
No, I was lucky. I found out in time. I broke off with her.
Well, how do you mean you found out in time? What'd you find out?
I found the truth, Sergeant, the everlasting word. For know this and understand, that no unclean person or covetous one has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. For these have given themselves up in despair to sensuality, greedily practicing every kind of uncleanness. Do not then become partakers with them. That's the everlasting word, Sergeant, the holy book.
Yes, sir. I'm not quite sure I follow you.
Open your eyes and ears to the everlasting word, and you will know and understand all things. It's very simple, officer. I don't want to say anything uncharitable about her. Adele wasn't for me. I'm glad I found out in time, that's all.
Mm-hmm. When's the last time you saw her, Tanner? Do you remember?
No, I don't, not exactly. I think I saw her a week or so before it happened, before they found her dead.
Where was that you saw her?
How's that?
I say, where was it the last time you saw her?
On the street. It was downtown somewhere. I passed her on the street.
You used to live in the same apartment house she did, isn't that right? Just down the hall from her?
Yes, sir, I did. Why?
And for a full week, you didn't happen to see the Pryor girl around the apartment building at all?
No, that's right. When I broke off with Adele, that was it. I had no reason to see her anymore.
Well, it's not too clear, Tanner. It doesn't jibe with what we've been told about you and the Pryor girl.
Well, the lies, of course. I suppose you know that. Adele was a beautiful girl, very beautiful. A lot of men she knew were jealous of me.
Well, the way we understand it, Tanner, you never did break off with Miss Pryor. You were going around with her, and you were seen with her right up to the day of her death.
Well, that's certainly a lie, and I can prove that. As soon as I found out about Adele, that was weeks before she was killed, as soon as I found out, that was the end. I broke off with her right away.
I'd like to know what you're referring to, Tanner. You found out what?
Adele, she was one of those.
Huh?
I'm sorry, she was. The sinner. I almost went out of my mind when I found out. She knew it was wrong. She must have known. It was right there in the book for anybody to read. Do not let sin reign in your mortal body so that you obey its lusts.
Now, look, Tanner, what are you trying to tell us?
It was terrible. She sinned all the time. She committed terrible sins. Will you come into this side room over here? I can tell you all about her. I'd just as soon not talk about it here.
Sure, go ahead.
In here.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Just one question before you get started, Tanner.
Yes? Did
Did you ever visit Adele Pryor at her place of business downtown at her office?
No, I never did. Why?
Did you visit Adele Pryor at her office the day she was killed?
The Lord is my witness, Sergeant. I have nothing to fear. Why should you ask me that question?
We have a report that you were seen going into the office less than an hour before the Pryor girl was murdered. I'd like to have you clarify that for us, if you would.
Certainly. It's a lie.
You're sure you weren't in that office with her just before she died?
Well, let me tell you about her sins. There was never anything as evil as this, Sergeant.
Is that right?
Yes, it was a terrible shock. I liked Adele. I think I loved her. We'd been going out for 2 months. Sometimes I'd take her here so that she could learn about the everlasting word, so that she could know about the terrible sins some people commit. Oh, drinking and parties and carryings on. Things no one should do, especially girls like Adele. Beautiful girl.
How can you be sure she was doing anything wrong, Tanner? Do you have any real proof of that?
Everything, Sergeant, I knew. Just knowing that she was sinning against the Lord.
Did you know any of the other men she went out with?
They were sinful, I knew that. They only liked Adele because she was beautiful.
Did you know any of the men, Tanner? Did you know for a fact that there was anything wrong?
I knew everything, Sergeant. She was a beautiful girl, and I thought she was a woman of the Lord, and I wanted her for my wife. But she gave in to sin.
Well, I guess that's her business, Tanner, how she lived. We're trying to find out how she died.
Well, just let me tell you about it. I'd lie there in the dark in my room upstairs, and I'd wait to hear her come in down the hall. It was always late. 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd hear her come in.
You still haven't told us, Tanner. What about the men she went out with, this Pryor girl?
Slaves of the devil, every one of them. I thought I'd go out of my mind.
All right, now, come on. You want to tell us, mister, how about it? Is that what made you do it?
No, wait a minute. You don't want to wait to listen. You say made me do it. Made me do what?
I think you know what we mean, Tanner. You want to tell us now?
It's a terrible thing. All this sin around us. It's a grave thing. The whole world. There is not one just man. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. There is none who does good. No, not even one. Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have dealt deceitfully. The venom of asps is beneath their lips. Their mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the path of peace they have not known. There's no fear of God before their eyes. No fear of God.
Yes, sir. We'd still like an answer to our question. Maybe we could talk a little better downtown.
The wisdom and the knowledge is here and now. I knew Adele and her terrible sins. They had to be paid for. Adele had to pay for every one of them.
You want to get to the point, mister. Now, what is it? What are you trying to tell us?
The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the charity of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Amen. So she sinned and so she died.
Yeah.
In the name of God and in the name of our Lord. Amen. I killed her.
William Harold Tanner was brought downtown immediately, where he volunteered a complete statement admitting full guilt for the murder of Adele Pryor. Blood-stained clothing found in his room corroborated his story. It was obvious that the man was mentally unbalanced. He gave us the details of how he murdered Adele Pryor because she spurned his attentions. We began questioning him about the Donaldson murder, which had taken place more than a year before and which was still unsolved. The victim, 64-year-old Louise Donaldson, had met death in the same manner as Adele Pryor.
No, I didn't know the old lady, but she had money. I'd been told that. I was broke and I needed the cash, so I thought it'd be a good thing.
This was in September a year ago that you murdered her.
Yes, sir, September, all right. She was all alone. She didn't have anybody. She was sick. I probably did her a favor.
Your package here says that you figured in the investigation on the plot to blow up the Rexmore Hotel about 3 years ago, homemade bomb planted in the basement of the hotel?
Yes, that was mine 3 years ago in September. Never could have traced it. Too bad the bomb didn't go off. I hated those hotel people.
Is that right? What was the matter?
I worked at that hotel once, you know. Worked hard, too. One Saturday, they held up my paycheck. I didn't get it till next Tuesday. Never forgot that. September.
September. Now, what's that got to do with it?
I don't know, really. September's always been the time, that's all. I work into some kind of trouble. Last 4 years, every September. I don't know what it is. Seems to be the best time to get rid of them. Yeah, September. It's always September.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to kill Adele. There wasn't anything else I could do. She was a sinner.
Yeah.
Drinking, running around. She committed sins all the time. Worst kind of sins. Terrible.
Let me tell you, maybe you better check the book, Tanner. You're way ahead of her.
What do you mean?
What kind of sin's worse than murder?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On January 10th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. Further investigation proved beyond a doubt that William Tanner, besides murdering Adele Pryor, had also taken the life of 64-year-old Louise Donaldson the year before, and that he was responsible for the attempted bombing of the Rexmore Hotel the year before that. After examination by 3 psychiatrists appointed by the state, the suspect was found to be sane at the time of the murders. Tanner was convicted of first-degree murder and received the death penalty. He was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Thanks for listening to HOJO Radio. We'll be back again very soon.